Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The newly launched Hustler Fund is aimed at encouraging a savings culture that will make making pension available to every borrower. President William Ruto, while launching the fund, said that the facility, which can be accessed using the USSD code *254#, will have an interest rate of 0.002%, meaning it is 500 times cheaper than the average lenders in the market.
Tumesema tunaweka interest ambayo itasaidia hiyo Hustler Fund iendelee na hakuna mtu anapata faida. Kwa hivyo kutoka 1% tumepunguza interest mpaka 0.002%. Hii Hustler Fund pia inakupatia nafasi ya kufanya ile inaitwa saving. Ukikopa unaweka pension yako, na hiyo pension utakuwa unaambiwa kila siku ukikopa imefika shilingi fulani.
Ruto further explained that most lenders or jobless will benefit from the fund, as the government will give them 1 shilling for every 2 shillings saved.
Mahasla wengi ambao watakopa kwa hii platform hawajahajiriwa mahali popote. Tumeamua ya kwamba ukiweka shilingi yako 2, serikali ya Kenya inakupatia shilingi 1. Kusema ya kwamba ukisave shilingi 500 kwa mwezi, yaani shilingi 6,000 kwa mwaka, serikali ya Kenya itakupatia shilingi 3,000. Kwa sababu tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba kila mtu ako katika saving kila mwaka.
He said borrowers can be given a loan of between 500 to 50,000 shillings and even more, as they'll introduce a new loan limit after 60 days.
Unaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 500 kuanzia leo mpaka shilingi 50,000. Lakini vile vile tuko na product ya pili inaitwa micro loan. Utaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 50,000, na hiyo tunafanya launching mwezi wa pili. Hiyo utaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 50,000 hadi shilingi 1,500. Na mkiwa katika kikundi mnaweza kukopa hadi shilingi milioni 10. Na isitoshe, zile sako ambazo ziko regulated na SASRA wanaweza kupata kuanzia milioni 10 mpaka milioni 100.
Meanwhile, a section of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition MPs have scoffed at the Just and Avail Hustler Fund, saying it did not meet the expectations of many Kenyans. The MPs compare the fund with the other money lenders, saying that the President William Ruto-led administration lied to Kenyans on how to access the monies under the Hustler Fund. Suna East MP Junaid Mohammed, while speaking in Parliament, accused Kenya Kwanza of hoodwinking Kenyans during campaigns with the promise of the fund being free, but are now overtaxing them. According to the MP, the government ought to have minimized the interest rate to make the fund more affordable to Kenyans, instead of slapping an 8% interest rate and a further 9.5% on defaulters. Now, Kenya has flashed the amber light on its HIV intervention measures after 34,540 new infections were recorded in 2021. The new infections signify a 7.3% increase after nearly a decade of a declining new infections curve, putting the National Syndemic Disease Control Council on a pedestal to clip the numbers from rising further. Women bore the brunt of the new infections at 66.7% of the new infections, compared to men who accounted for 33.3% of the total number. About 17,961 adolescents and young adults aged 15 to 29 tested positive for HIV in 2021, with this age group bearing the burden of new infections at 52%. This comes amidst declining donor fund, which had shrunk to 7.3 billion shillings by 2018, followed by the withdrawal of US-funded PEPFAR in 2019, as donors pushed for countries to push and support their health programs by internal funding. As of this financial year, that is 2022-2023, Kenya's annual funding gap for essential HIV commodities stands at 100,454,190 shillings, including a 6-month buffer commodities stock, even as counties report a biting shortage of condoms, ARV drugs, and testing kits for HIV. Now, Russia is keen to establish a Kenya-Russia parliamentary friendship group to enhance parliamentary diplomacy and engagements between the two countries. Speaker of the National Assembly Moses Wetangula and Russian ambassador to Kenya Dmitry Maxmichev made the observation during a meeting held at the parliament buildings. Maxmichev congratulated Wetangula for his election to the helm of the August House. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Number the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the Constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and he shouldn't be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, it's Thursday and coming into the tail end of the week. Let's take a look at what is going on most of these Nairobi streets. We're looking at traffic starting to build up on Mombasa Road today. That's just going to go just past the General Motors turn off, and then after that you should be all right heading into the city. We will see a build up of the traffic coming over on the Thika Superhighway, and quite some coming out of Westlands as well. Jogger Road is already starting to get packed. It's a normal morning business that we see there. So taking a look at how Thursday is going to pan out. I'll also see a little bit of action already happening coming off into the CBD. Outer Ring looks pretty busy already. Kangunda Road and Manyanja Road, as well as Juja Road, crossing over Outer Ring and then into the city. Looks like it's going to be a busy morning. All right, tell us what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. We want to keep Thursday moving and moving well.
.9 SpiceFM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
Indeed, the only way to start your day. It's 8 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? And hoping that Thursday is starting off right. Kenya's biggest conversation starts now. CT.
Yes?
Good morning.
Good morning.
MBA.
Man, it's cold.
In your world or?
No, it's actually cold. Today it's particularly cold.
Yeah, that's a bit of a
the
frost.
measure of cold is actually my body, my limbs, my joints. Mm-hmm. They tell me. And today they're speaking loudly and painfully.
Insides are creaking.
Forget creaking. They are cracking.
Oh, wow. Polisana City.
It's, yes, call it the lay of the land. Call it what you want to call it, but it's nothing unusual. It's just that I am fortunate in that I have a system that can actually talk to me about the cold.
I'm telling you.
Other people don't have that warning system. I do.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you know, it's going to get warmer. That we know. Getting into,
of course.
It's true now. It's the first day of December 2022. It's World AIDS Day, and it probably marks when we're getting into the warmer season as you then get out into the end of the year, and then come January, it's going to look a bit warmer. So CTs, I'm telling you, your bones will tell us. Good morning and welcome. So quite a number of conversations lined up for you today. Eric Latif did a walkabout and he ended up in another country, so he'll be with us after a couple of days. And so we're holding fort here as we continue into very important conversations. All right, at 8 o'clock, World AIDS Day is commemorated on the 1st of December every year, and looking at the gains that have been made, looking at the increases of numbers that have been made as well. Kenya records rise in new HIV infections. The World AIDS Day Report 2022 will be released today and indicates an increase in new HIV infections for the first time in a decade. We'll be having a conversation today with the very skilled Dr. Mecha, who will be with us from the University of Nairobi, and we'll be looking at some of those insights into World AIDS Day at 8 o'clock today. All right. There was a time when buildings stood the test of time. We've seen, unfortunately, quite a number of those basically come tumbling down. All right. Former PS engineer Kamal will be in the studio with also another former, but an expert in his own right. Philip Kisia will be with us at 7 o'clock, and we will be talking about, so with the collapsing buildings, with the fear that a lot of people have now, what does it mean for Nairobi and other parts of the country? So we will be looking at that, and more conversations, of course, continue at 9 o'clock. And thank you always for being with us as we do that. All right. So those are the conversations we'll be having today, and stepping into it, let's kick things off as we take a look at what's going on with COVID. Okay. If we're looking at the numbers coming from the Ministry of Health, let's just look at vaccines received so far. 29,506,260 and 9,982,872 have been fully vaccinated from the adult population. And we're looking at just over 2 million having been vaccinated partially. 2.8 million is the doses administered to those between the ages of 12 and 18, and 794,642 have been fully vaccinated, and those are teenagers between the ages of 15 and 18. 1,727,597 are booster doses that have been given. So we're looking at 2 years into 2.5 years, or rather 1 year into the release of vaccines. 36.6% of Kenya's population has been vaccinated. And those are the numbers that we're looking at when things are still looking really crazy. In China, unrest continues in Guangzhou as lockdown anger grows. People in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou have clashed with police overnight in the latest protest against the country's strict COVID rules. Footage online showed police in white hazmat suits clutching riot shields to protect themselves from debris and glass thrown at them by protesters. Another video showed people being taken away in handcuffs. Wednesday, city officials said COVID restrictions would be released in several districts. Or rather relaxed in several districts. So maybe protests work? Maybe. China has been seen record numbers of new cases in recent days. According to posts on social media, protests took place on Tuesday and into the early hours of Wednesday in the district of Haizhu. One Guangzhou resident told the news agency that he saw around 100 police officers converge on Hujiao village in Haizhu and arrest at least 3 men. So the protests continue, and it will be interesting to see if these relaxed measures actually take place over the next couple of days, because things are tight and probably looking tighter from all indications so far. Okay, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Looking at the numbers, Kenya's positivity rate still remains at just under 10% and trying to get down to 5. It's coming around to 6:15 o'clock. We're going to say hello to you in a minute. I can see quite a number of you checking in and clocking in, and we'll do that after we take a look at the weather, come back and say hello.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and the agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafande hii umbo yako iko na pembe.
Hii ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Light rain in Nairobi at 16. It'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 16 today. We're looking at 14 and clear in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 11. 12 degrees and cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 22 and lows of 10. And it's 12 and clear in Eldoret. It'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 11. It's raining at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 24. And Malindi is going to be sunny from this morning at 26, going to highs of 31 and lows of 26. Clear conditions in Kisumu at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18, and Kakamega is clear at 18, highs of 29 and lows of 13. Looking at rainy conditions in Kampala this morning at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 16, and Dar es Salaam is raining at 25, highs of 31. Looking into Johannesburg, it's clear at 13, highs of 27, and going to lows of 13 today. Looking into Lagos, mostly clear at 26, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 32 as well in a rainy Kinshasa. And then out into Beijing, afternoon is -1, highs of 1 and lows of -12, well into the winter. 5 degrees and cloudy in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of 4, and it's 8 degrees and cloudy in London, going to highs of just 8 and lows of 3. New York Wednesday night is partly cloudy at 8, coming into Thursday. We'll see highs of 14 and lows of 2.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
At 18 minutes after
94.4 Spice FM.
You can see that quite a number of people are online today. Kenya's biggest conversation continues, and our live streams are up on Facebook and YouTube. We see you and say good morning and indeed happy new month. Simon Murkana, Buyayi Marachi Butula. All of those places in one. Welcome and karibu sana. Radio is locked. Looking forward to great conversations indeed. Innocent Akunda, thanks for joining us. Yes, Eddie Odwar says, good morning. The Hustler Fund has already dispersed 500 shillings to me. Now I don't know how to spend the money. It's fun stuff. I know, don't spend it all in one place, Eddie. You got to pay it back in 14 days. And some interest will be applied. 500 shillings to you. Thika Road is where Ruto is tuned in from today. Robert Mbogo says good morning from Mombasa. Happy new month from Paul Wanyonyi. And live from Transoia. A happy new month to you too, Claire Fasanam. And Simon Maina Mataiga says good morning. Tobias Nyongesa, good morning to you. Zachary says good morning. Gatundu South represented, welcome to December to you too. Jara Jogona is tuned in as well. And Daniel Jamhuri says hello and good morning. Good morning, guys. Tuning from Palms Resorts in Nyali, Mombasa. And Waiveron Joroge says good morning and happy new month indeed to you, Kabila Mboya. Many more people online today. Thank you for joining us. Always great to have you in the room, and karibu sana. CT, I listened to some music overnight and I found myself in another world.
You did?
I did.
And does this world have a name?
This world has a name. It was the world of the Samsung Buds Pro 2.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Have your moment.
I really did. It was actually more than a moment. And then interestingly, so kids at my daughter's school are going on a trip. So then while I was listening to my music, then the Zoom meeting for the prep for the trip came on. I just carried on. I just did a tap and I joined the meeting. Nobody knew what was going on. I was in the meeting. The buds put me in a totally different world completely. Did my meeting, was not disturbed, went back to listening to my music. The Samsung Buds 2 Pro are quite the thing.
Can you imagine a situation where you had plugged in, tuned in, connected with the Samsung Galaxy, it is Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Can you imagine that even beyond listening, you will be able to see? Can you imagine the clarity with which you'd be able to see? To see. Hearing with that remarkable clarity, and then seeing with equal remarkable clarity.
Precision.
Yep. You know, this English language is a wonderful language.
Isn't it just?
Precision is the word. Yes. Can you imagine?
So I'm guessing that it is from this place of precision that you want to give us today's program.
It is from this place of precision that I was merely preambling. And as we agreed yesterday, I wanted you to have your moment.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I did not wish to hog this whole time talking to you about my this and my the other and my S8 Ultra and my...
Because your time will come.
My time will most definitely come.
And here it is.
Yes, we are still in this is the second last day when we will be interacting with our proverbs from the country of Guinea. Okay? Right. For news of the heart, ask the face.
What?
For news of the heart, ask the face.
That's very interesting. Because there's another one that says, there is no art to tell the mind's construction on the face.
Yes, the construction bit is quite true, yes.
So your face can tell what your heart is feeling or thinking.
Oh, yes.
Unless you have a fantastic poker face.
Yes, but then remember the English and their language tell us also that when such a person is described, it is mentioned and it is said of them that they are wearing their heart on their
sleeve.
How the heart descends from where it's normally lodged to the sleeves is...
It's the one that you can see now, Abby.
Now, see? So now, take that property of vision from the sleeve and put it on the face. Yes.
Voila.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Okay. If you want to know the heart, ask the face.
If for news of the heart, this is what the proverb says, ask the face.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on in the papers today. I got to tell you, if you want to become better and more informed and productive today, do you more than you were yesterday? The Standard Insider, it's a subscription platform of the Standard newspaper and will help you get there. The Standard Insider gives you access to all the premium news content, including rather and the news making headlines, while providing you with the information, knowledge, and inspiration that you need. The genres of content that are being put in the Standard Insider are good old tech stories, utility information, based videos such as content from our investigative journalists, specialized curated podcast, and so much more. So 199 shillings is all you need, folks. And you can now bobear on our monthly offer to get access to curated stories that meet your needs. You can subscribe now at www.standardmedia.co.ke and save 100 shillings. It does not get any better than this. The e-paper allows you to get the latest news, videos, and pictures of what is happening locally and also across the globe. This is our festive offer. The Standard Insider. You are what you read. And speaking of that, let's take a look at the headlines this morning. Hustle game changer is one on the front page of the Standard. In sticking with his campaign promise, President William Ruto launches the Hustler Fund that will see borrowers access credit at an all-time low interest rate of 8% a year. The low-income earners will not only benefit from the loans, but also save part of what they are borrowing. So even before he made or completed his announcement yesterday at Green Park, President Ruto, as he was talking about this, Kenyans from across board were dialing *254# and getting the loans. Eddie Oduor told us how he had already gotten 500 shillings. What else are we seeing? It is World AIDS Day, so we'll look at that story in a bit. A pledge to end HIV in children by 2030. The HIV annual report comes out today on World AIDS Day, and so it'll be interesting to see what that tells us. KCPE and KPSEA exams ended yesterday, and that sets up children now to go to Form 1 next year or somewhere, junior high school next year for those who are in grade 6. What's on the front page of The Nation? Ruto reads his bickering CS's The Riot Act. Basically says, look, you guys will behave yourselves. This thing of fighting in public, we're not having it. And he was angered by what he said is a failure to adopt the collective responsibility doctrine. Ruto called cabinet secretaries to order, fearing that their public clashes were exposing the nascent Kenya Kwanza administration to ridicule, and he's not having any of it. Azimio plots powerful opposition leader office, and we're also looking at Kenya records high rise of HIV cases. Okay, what's happening? On the back page of The Nation, MPs in mad rush to clear Ruto PS nominees before going on recess. So there will be a recess as you go into the holiday period, but MCs want to make sure that the PS nominees have been cleared so that we start the year. City, these people that you said you're going to give 100, you're waiting until they come into office, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so
I mean, I haven't changed that position. It isn't cast in concrete, but I think it's only sensible.
Okay.
Because really, you are talking about the accounting officers in our various ministries. So how on earth are you going to judge performance when the people whose signature on documents either releases funds, sets in motion all the activities that will relate to economic activity, let them get into office?
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
And that one, from the day they get in, not give them a week to settle in. I know that the way government procedure works, even before the vetting and everything, there are familiarization tours, there are some education. These are not tips. You are familiarized with how government works, you are told. So they have an idea. So when they land on the job, they are supposed to simply take off.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what's on the front page of the Business Daily.
The Business Daily that I have isn't the Business Daily of today. This is yesterday's Business Daily, which I didn't get yesterday. My source seems to delay in delivering. However...
So you got yesterday's Business Daily today?
Yes, it was available today. I'm sure it came later on in the day because remember these witching hours that we come to work, they sometimes are not very good for collecting papers.
Okay.
Because people, when it's this chilly weather, there's this delay and there's another delay and blah, 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 blah. But let me just read the headline that was there yesterday.
Why not?
I feel it is important.
Okay.
Then we can go on to today. Collapsed U.S. crypto firm FTX put billions in 3 Kenya firms. Cryptocurrency wars. FTX invested in BitPesa, Mara, and Chipper Cash. Tycoon used investors' billions to fund lavish lifestyles. Okay.
Wow.
Crypto exchange FTX and its sister company Alameda Research, which has filed for bankruptcy in a U.S. court, invested billions in at least 3 Kenyan startups in what could throw the young firms into financial wild waters. Right.
All right.
The headline
on
the Star. Okay. Yesterday I did mention, remember again on the Star, there was a story of the PS who beat his pregnant wife. Okay. This story continues. It's on page 9, the full story.
Yeah.
But it says, PS beat pregnant wife with rungu as workers watched. Yeah, I'm reading what is written. Quote, house help tells court it was not the first time Julius Korir assaulted Koech. Okay? The story continues.
The story continues.
Okay,
maybe we'll take a break and look at traffic, and then you come back and tell us that story. CT, read that story to us, and as we look at other headlines. But first, I want to remind you to step up and shine. See, now I've told you that my daughter is going on a school trip. School has closed. I've told you my daughter's going on a school trip, right? And now, yesterday during this Zoom meeting, when I, was able to listen to the meeting, listen to all the details of the meeting, wearing my Samsung buds, then they told us, you must, on the first day of the trip, you must be dressed in full school uniform with your black school shoes. And so my daughter proceeded to go and polish up her shoes yesterday, and I could literally see myself in the shoes as they had been polished, no less with kiwi. And she did that, and I thought, hey, this is what they're talking about. This chick is actually going to step up and shine. And it's time to do that with Kiwi this year. You stand a chance to get instant airtime or data with every purchase, specifically marked tin of black kiwi polish. So if you don't have that at home, you want to go out and get that. You polish your shoes, but you also have an opportunity to win. What do you need to do? Walk to your nearest store, buy a tin of kiwi black shoe polish, and once open, find a unique code under the lid. Dial *459*5# and send the code to stand a chance to win 35,000 shillings in school fees, courtesy of Kiwi. Step up and shine.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, so at a few minutes after 6:30, we're looking at traffic that has built up in several parts of the city, looking at Jogo Road, and that started early. So we're looking at bumper to bumper all the way through towards Landis, and it's seeping over towards Kamkunji. Let's take a look at coming out of Westlands. Doesn't look too bad. If you want to get out of Westlands, now would be the time to do so, because it's not cray just yet on Thursday. On the Thika Superhighway, however, we are seeing that jam as it's heading out towards Pangani, and it's trickling in slowly, but nothing too crazy right now. Coming out of Westlands doesn't look too bad either. Gong Road hasn't started to build up, but we're likely to see that happen as the sun creeps out through those dark clouds. The chance of rain is through the morning is much more now. The trinkle or drizzle that started in the morning likely to continue through the morning, so the streets will be slippery. What's going on where you are this morning? Traffic doesn't look too bad now, but we will see that around 7 o'clock it'll pick up in several places. So if you want to get out now. Please be careful while you do so. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Minutes to 7 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. It's Ndu and CT with you today. Eric away for a couple of days. He will be back in a couple of days. Taking a look at what's going on in the paper. CT, so that story, please do tell.
Well, the story first featured yesterday, and it features again today. The addition to the story that I read yesterday is that now the testimony is being given by the house help, a lady by the name of Milka Chep Chirchir, who served as the house help at the time. And this is what she had to say. I know Julius, and he used to be Koeche's husband when I started staying with them. We stayed in Karen on July 17, 2020. I was in the bathroom taking a shower. After finishing, I met Julius upstairs. He gave me the baby. I went downstairs to the living room as he went upstairs. After a few minutes, I heard Koech screaming, "Help me, I am being killed." The court was further told that Koech was seen running downstairs as she cried while Koreri followed her with beatings. The rest of the narrative is just about the violence and the testimony of the two ladies and how the wife was very, very emotional when she was giving her testimony. This case continues. But what is of interest is that from the testimony of the house help, this wasn't a solitary
incident.
No, it wasn't. It had happened before.
Right, and
yes.
Severally.
Yes, it had. You see, by the time a spouse is trained or divorced takes you to court over such a thing, there must be sound reason as to why.
Probably.
But in these matters, one also wants to wait and hear what the defense will have to say.
Absolutely.
Because they will be the side that the defense has to put up and say, this is the situation, how I see it. Yes.
In some of these matters, you can't even lend an opinion until...
How do you start, really?
Where do you begin?
The scenario we are being presented with is a horrible one where someone beat his wife. And we are hearing the testimony given by the person who was at the end of the beating. And there is a testimony of somebody who witnessed it. Okay? Now, domestic violence is something that, irrespective of how you twist it and turn it, you cannot justify. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you fry it or you boil it or you bake it. It cannot be justified.
No, it can't.
It cannot be justified.
The reason, no.
Now, however, whatever the circumstances are, unjustifiable as it is, one would like to hear what it is that the person who's being accused has to say on the subject.
For sure. Yes. Even without reasoning, that would, any kind of justification, it would still be interesting to hear what was going on in the mind of the defendant in this case. Speaking about people who might come to their own defense, Ruto's reading his CSs, the ones who are bickering, the Riot Act, and he's saying, look, I'm not going to allow this nonsense to continue. Now, I'm not quite sure who we are referring to when they seem to have been misbehaving in public, but anyway, I shall read you the story nonetheless. President William Ruto on Tuesday read the Riot Act to his cabinet, reprimanding ministers over conflicting public statements regarding key state policies. Angered by what he said was a failure to adopt the collective responsibility doctrine in cabinet, President Ruto is said to have called the cabinet secretaries to order with the fear that public clash of the CSs is exposing the nascent administration to ridicule. It comes after the raging debate that followed Trade CS Moses Kuria's announcement of a planned importation of 10 million bags of maize, an order quickly rejected by his agriculture counterpart, Mivika Linturi, who insisted he is the one to determine the shortage and then the quality, or rather the quantity of imports. The president directed the CSs that they should henceforth desist from making remarks without first checking with him, especially on issues with serious implications, according to a CS aware of the reprimand, and they told this to the nation. In such cases, the president is reported to have said CSs should desist from the public back and forth and instead restrict such discussions to cabinet. Kuria had caused a storm, according to this, which led to threats by the Raila Odinga-led Azimio Umoja One Kenya coalition to impeach him after farmers from the maize-growing regions demanded that he rescind the importation order that had become which they said was insensitive because they are in the middle of the harvest season. Okay, so the president is basically saying, look, let's talk about these things in-house. Don't make it seem as if we don't have our ducks in a row because we are still in infant stages of this government and you already want to make it seem as if we don't know what's going on. Stop it, he says. Stop it. Okay, CT, what else
I am
do you
looking
have?
at the race against time to process PSs ahead of recess. Okay?
Recess being Christmas holidays.
Recess being Christmas holidays, which the esteemed members of Parliament, I am certain, are looking forward to. This is a report on page 8 of the Star. Members of the National Assembly on Wednesday racing against time to complete the vetting and approval of President William Ruto's principal secretaries ahead of recess. Reports are expected to be tabled on Thursday for approval. Thursday is today.
This is.
Okay? So what they did was, in order to make this possible, they had very many locations on which the interviews could actually take place just beyond Parliament House. And they looked for some leisure establishments like hotels, Eka Hotel on Mombasa Road, Norfolk, Comfort, Pride Inn, Panari, Hilton, Trademark, Walesereni. All these were venues that were then used for these processes. And from this report, it is clear that these PSs want to hit the ground running. There are people who are already making promises and saying, I plan to do this, and I plan to do the other, and I plan to do the other, which is good. It means that they are on top of their game, and they already have an idea and a plan. It would be good if these plans were clear, and with the justification as to why those plans are there, and also if they could tell us where the budgetary allocations to achieve these plans will come from and how it is they hope to. If they're in a ministry that can raise funds, then we would like to know how it is they want to go about this.
It would be good if the plans are clear to them who are making
Yes, but we also want to know about them. This thing of being told this thing is happening tomorrow, please, no, thank you. No.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, a little advance warning and say these are our plans. You see, how do you determine what someone has done in 100 days if you don't know what it is that they're planning to do? Isn't it important that they tell you that this is what I want to do? This is how I want to do it. This is what I hope to have achieved within the 100 days.
Yeah.
So come the 100 days or even come 50 days, we have an idea as to whether we are on track or we are not. Not really complicated, is it?
No, it isn't.
Yes. For me, the thing that is going to be the elephant in the room, as we like saying, is whether these nominees, when they actually assume their positions, will abide by the determined and required rules within our constitution of transparency and accountability. That is what I'm waiting to see.
Might be a wait.
Yep.
You get it? It might be a wait. Speaking about long waits and things then that happened yesterday on the 30th of November, it was said that by December 1st, the Hustler Fund will be here with us. And here we are, December 1st, and voila, c'est ça, the Hustler Fund is here with us now. There were many debates raging here and there. We're going to hear in the next couple of days from people who are entrepreneurial and how this Hustler Fund will or will not affect them. Kenyans rush to take loans after Hustler Fund launch. Kenyans made some 600 borrowing requests per second. You thought there were 600 through the day? No, please. 600 borrowing requests per second yesterday, shortly after the government unveiled the USSD code for the disbursement of Hustler Fund loans. President William Ruto yesterday launched the much-awaited Hustler Fund, which was part of his key campaign promises. With the digital platform going live, millions of Kenyans were able to register, check their loan limits, and apply for loans. To be eligible, one must be at least 18 years old, have a national identity card and a registered SIM card and mobile money account with Safaricom, Airtel or Telcom. Further, their lines must have been in use for at least 90 days. This means that if you buy a new SIM card today and register it solely for the purpose of getting the loan, you will not be eligible. To borrow, an individual dials *254#, pretty snazzy, from any of the 3 mobile phone network providers. They can also use the mobile application of the 3 telcos to apply for a loan. Okay? President Ruto launched the Personal Finance Project, which is among the 4 loan products provided by the Hustler Fund. The others include the micro loan, the small and medium-sized enterprises loan, and the startup loan, and they'll be launched at a later date. What he said, we will unshackle millions of Kenyans from the chains of debt that they are unable to pay. KCB and Family Bank are the implementing banks of the fund. The personal finance product offers includes a minimum loan of 500 shillings and a maximum of 50,000 through an 8% interest. The loan must be returned in 14 days. Sawa. 600 loan requests per second.
Yes.
In a minute. What's 600 times 60? There's 60 seconds in a minute, isn't it?
Yes.
Abi? 600 loan requests per second.
36,000.
36,000 loan requests per minute. It's like people were just waiting at that thing and bulging and saying, okay, they said, start 254#, go, boom.
By the way, they're responsive because even as I looked at this number, I decided to key it in.
You did the thing?
I have keyed in.
Did
I've
you get
registered.
a loan?
No. You wait for 2 hours for them to tell you your loan limit and so forth. But it works and it's prompt.
So when did you do it?
Just now.
Oh, you've just done it now?
Now. As we're talking, and I looked at this, I had not, this access of 254 on Safaricom, Airtel, and Telcom. That is what I've done.
Okay. So like in 2 hours, then you're going to hear whether you can borrow 500 bob or 10,000 bob or whatever.
Bob, I'll be told to get lost. Whatever. Yes.
Okay. I mean, so long as you're over 18 and you're Kenyan, CT, I think you've hit those two.
And so long as you have a registered valid ID.
You have an ID?
I do have an ID.
And you've had your line for more than 90 days?
Mobile phone number with Safaricom, Airtel, and Telcom. You have a mobile money account, M-Pesa, Airtel Money, or T-Cash. So long as you have those,
you're okay.
Then you're fine. Okay. The thing is, when you key in *254#, it responds instantly. Believe me, it's instant. And it tells you, register, blah, blah, blah. Again, instant. Everything about it is instant.
Okay.
I'm waiting to see if the 2 hours are instant. We'll see
if it's an instant 2 hours as well. There have been a lot of complaints that have jumped out of the woodwork about this from yesterday. 14 days. Will we see people pay these loans in 14 days? Will there be a high rate of default? Why was it that we saw such a huge number of people apply for these loans yesterday? Are we looking at that the capital needs in the country are still so high? Are people really at that status whereby they just don't have enough to get? So what should be the more worrying issue now that we saw such huge numbers yesterday with this Hustler Fund having been launched?
Actually, now the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics have their work cut out for them, because data galore. You will be able to piece together a lot of things that may have puzzled you. Because when you say you have 36 applications per minute, and it'll go up.
36,000?
No, yes. If people start talking and telling each other about the success and how they've gotten money and reporting it, more people will take courage and they will apply. So these numbers that we're speaking of, that's the starting numbers. They are going to increase. Okay? Everything about this process, the system, will it hold? Will it be able to manage? Everything about it. This is an opportunity to collect the data so that whatever it is that has been set in place can be improved upon. Okay? As for the complaints, Kenyans like complaining. Okay?
Somebody now has just done the *254#, and that 2 hours you're talking about was 10 minutes, and they have a loan limit of 1,000 shillings.
See?
Are you going to borrow the 1,000 shillings? We'll see.
That's up to you.
It's up to you.
Yes.
It's up to you to do.
Yes.
It'll be interesting. Look, I'm concerned about and quite a number of people, what the rate of return will be. And if you're looking at the rate of return, then you're looking at the rate of default. And I'm not quite sure what those penalties were, that you will be locked out of borrowing, etc., etc. The loans are to be repaid within 14 days and are charged at an interest of 8% per annum or 0.02% daily. This means that if you were to borrow 500 shillings or 1,000 shillings, you will repay 501.53 or 1,003 shillings after 14 days. So,
I had gone off on this tack of how Kenyans like complaining. They do. Okay? When you have a problem, you don't need to complain. You need to state what the problem is. But you also need to get to a point where you focus your mind on how that problem can be resolved. It may be difficult and you don't know. You don't have to have a solution. Somebody probably has a solution. Now, this particular fund, and it's setting it up, falls in the category of a solution. Okay?
For the what? For the money problems that Kenyans have?
Yes, if you have a problem, it provides. Now, but it presents you with yet another opportunity, and that is the opportunity to implement and instill discipline in the way you do things. Okay? This isn't free money for you to sort of like just get, spend, and then worry about payment into it. No. It's supposed to help you do something that will generate even more money. Indeed. That's what this thing is all about.
Yeah, that's what you look. But and I think the way that it has morphed over the last few weeks, what it started out as, what it was promised to be, and then what we're actually seeing it to be. Remember that the fund, this one individual borrowing is just one quadrant of all of this. There is your group loan, there's the business loans, there's the SME loans, so it's looking at all four of those, which will be brought out at a later date. But maybe there are some lessons about this, that it's not just frivolous borrowing that needs to take place, because then it turns out to be something that could mirror predatory lending. That if you're not going to take this thing to do something worthwhile, to stop a gap somewhere, to fill a need somewhere. Don't just take it if you want to see if this USSD code works, because my friend, you will pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, there will be consequences. So I think in as much as it's a campaign promise that has then now been made in whatever form it has taken, I think the clarion call is think about it very carefully before you actually go and dial those numbers.
There's something which they mention here. If you look at the standard and the piecing together of eligibility and what you need to know about the fund, they say when the loan is approved, 95% is deposited in your money wallet. But the 5% goes to your savings account scheme in the Hustler Fund. Okay? Now, I think this is an excellent idea because you may call it forced saving, but so be it. If you borrow and there is something that you have, remember, it's not you borrow and that's the end of the story. If you repay, you can borrow again.
Again, and probably at a higher limit kind of thing.
Yes. You will determine how much money you actually get. You can even start off with 500, which is what you are eligible for. But as you keep paying, you will actually be raising the possibility of you being able to borrow more.
Yep.
Because as any scheme that involves money must do, it must determine your capacity and willingness. No, ability they've already determined. That's why they're given a limit. Now, capacity to pay is what will now, and of course, the actualization of the payment will now raise the limits that you already have.
Sure.
Yes.
That's what it looks like. Okay, you want to tell us something about HIV, AIDS, City, World AIDS Day?
I do wish to talk about it. Yes, I really do want to talk about it. You cannot talk about the HIV. People say HIV and it's actually HIV.
It's HIV, yeah.
Without talking about PEPFAR. And I say you can't do that because one of the reasons why it is actually important is to understand how the process and the journey that has been traveled with regards to HIV, the early days, what happened, how it came to affect the world, what was necessary, the responses that came about to try and mitigate, and where we are today. It's a journey.
Yep.
Okay? Now, World AIDS Day always has a theme. Okay? And the theme is equalize. Okay? Yes. Equalize.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why one wonders why you must have, you see, you have to have a call to action and something that informs the public as to why it is. First of all, you have World AIDS Day, okay? And also what it is that one hopes to achieve moving forward, because it's a new year. And you have to have goals for that year, and you have to determine how then do we benefit from the gains we have made. How do we learn from these gains? How do we learn from some of the mistakes that were made? How then do we, if I may say so, reimagine this whole process? Reimagine even the sourcing, whether it's Global Fund, whether it's PEPFAR. How do you reimagine? How do you bring this into being so that it meets the needs of this particular new year that you're going to and this time and space that we're in? Because the care and treatment program has been with us for the longest time.
Right.
Research in HIV still exists and is still with us. Now, that is a discussion that one wants to move into as we go into a new year, which will end again on December 1st.
Indeed.
Next year, when we will again be celebrating a new World AIDS Day.
The HIV report, the global report, will be launched today, being World AIDS Day. But one of the goals, as what you talk about, is that Kenya now, as a country, wants to end infection of children in 8 years. And this is one of the things that we're looking at now. In 2019 alone, 3,100 children died from HIV-related complications. Over 1.4 million people were living with HIV, with 90,000 of them being children. We're looking at what the world is saying now. New infections, according to Ruth Masha, who is a doctor, among children can be eliminated, she says. Countries should mobilize resources and look at science and technology available to ensure that no child is born with HIV. The mother-to-child transmission science has looked at how it's possible to stop children from getting this. Just looking at all that has happened over the last 10 years, mother-to-child transmission has reduced from 17% to 9%, meaning that many mothers living with HIV can now get HIV-negative children. Masha said that the young people are the ones posing a big headache in the fight against HIV, adding that those aged below 29 years account for over 61% of all new HIV infections in Kenya. Young people think HIV doesn't exist, and if it exists, it's not a serious thing. They take family planning drugs, but they don't protect themselves during sexual encounters as they don't use condoms. In 2021 alone, young people aged between 15 and 19 accounted for 16,000 new HIV infections.
This particular day was inaugurated in 1988, and it marked the beginning of the first ever Global Health Day. Okay. Now, the purpose, one may ask, why do you have World AIDS Day? Well, one, apart from just looking at what has been achieved over time, but it's also a day to mark and to simply put as the central focus the support that should be given to people who have HIV. Improve on the support that exists, commiserate with those who lost their lives. Now, when you commiserate with people who died as a result of being infected by the virus, you commiserate with their families who may not have been infected but were affected, and still some are affected.
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's essentially a day of remembrance.
It is.
It's a day of remembrance. It's a day of reflection. It's a day of planning forward. Because when you have a situation that affected, influenced, and turned upside down the lives of so many people right across the globe, that time of reflection becomes paramount, and it should take a very pivotal position in the thinking of those who are involved in these processes, whether it's in research, whether it's in care and treatment, and whether it is actually in the funding of it, whether it's Global Fund, as I said, and whether it is PEPFAR.
Indeed.
Yes.
Okay. On page 2 and 3 of The Nation, there are 3 stories. All of them relate to DPP Haji and his office. The Cohen murder. The widow of Mr. Cohen now smells freedom after the office of the DPP has decided that the murder trial will turn into an inquest. That is one. The DPP also seeks to drop the murder charge against now CS Aisha Jumwa. And the Haji has also lost his bid to extradite Okemo in a 1.5 billion shilling graft case. My goodness, just when we were talking about all the cases that had been dropped just about a few weeks ago, now we are seeing 3 more. The family of murdered Dutch businessman Tob Cohen has opposed the prosecutor's decision to withdraw the murder charge against his widow and her co-accused. According to the family, the decision of the DPP is in bad faith and ill-intentioned. So his family has said, what are you doing? This was our shot. DPP is saying, for whatever reason, let's turn it into an inquest. It's possible that his widow, Miss Sarah Wairimo, could actually go free. That's not the only thing. The DPP has also decided that it is possible that Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa could soon be off the hook should the High Court accept to terminate the murder trial she has been facing in Mombasa for the last 3 years. Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji informed the court that Ms. Jumwa will now be turned into a state witness in the murder of Orange Democratic Movement supporter Jola Ngambao. Right? So if she's a state witness, obviously the charges against her will be what? Will be dropped. And that's not it. The DPP failed to adduce evidence to demonstrate why ex-minister Okemo Chris should be taken to the UK. The state has failed in its bid to extradite former Finance Minister Chris Okemo to the United Kingdom for trial over corruption and theft of 1.5 billion shillings, putting the Director of Public Prosecutions under fresh scrutiny. By golly, what is going on? These are 3 big cases that were on his desk, and it looks like all of them are slipping through his fingers.
But the judicial inquiry isn't a putting aside of this case, not really. It's just changing the manner and the mood in which this matter is going to be looked into.
Freedom, however, for the
Yes. Accused. When you go to court, you must smell freedom, because at the end of the day, there'll be a judgment, and it'll either be freedom or incarceration. But a judicial inquiry simply means the manner in which this matter is going to be addressed from a legal perspective, because it's legal, is different.
It is indeed different.
That is all.
It doesn't take away, however, from the fresh scrutiny that is then cast upon the office of the DPP and DPP Nuruddin Haji in terms of what is going on here.
Oh yes. That conversation, unfortunately, has been given more fuel.
Indeed, it has. All right, we're coming close to 7 o'clock, and I have to remind you that Centum Real Estate along the Thika Superhighway in Kasarani is letting you know how you could buy properties for about 495,000 shillings, and you can balance in flexible installments or finance from your SACCO or bank, and you could own a home or become a landlord at Two Rivers. More information about how you can text coming up after 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Oseto. The newly launched Hustler Fund is aimed at encouraging a saving culture that will make pension available to every borrower. President William Ruto, while launching the fund, said that the facility, which can be accessed using the USSD code *254#, will have an interest rate of 0.002%, meaning it is 500 times cheaper than the average lenders in the market.
Tumesema tunaweka interest ambayo itasaidia hiyo Hustler Fund iendelee na hakuna mtu anapata faida. Kwa hivyo kutoka 1% tumepunguza interest mpaka 0.002%. Hii Hustler Fund pia inakupatia nafasi ya kufanya ile inaitwa saving. Ukikopa unaweka pension yako, na hiyo pension utakuwa unaambiwa kila siku ukikopa imefika shilingi fulani.
Ruto further explained that most lenders who are jobless will benefit from the fund, as the government will give them 1 shilling for every 2 shillings saved.
Mahasla wengi ambao watakopa kwa hii platform hawajahajiriwa mahali popote. Tumeamua ya kwamba ukiweka shilingi yako 2, serikali ya Kenya inakupatia shilingi 1. Kusema ya kwamba ukisave shilingi 500 kwa mwezi, yaani shilingi 6,000 kwa mwaka, serikali ya Kenya itakupatia shilingi 3,000, kwa sababu tunataka kuhakikisha kwamba kila mtu ako katika saving kila mwaka.
He said borrowers can be given a loan between 500 shillings to 50,000 shillings and even more, as they'll introduce a new loan limit after every 60 days.
Unaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 500 kuanzia leo mpaka shilingi 50,000. Lakini vile vile tuko na product ya pili inaitwa micro loan. Utaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 50,000, na hiyo tunafanya launching mwezi wa pili. Hiyo utaweza kukopa kutoka shilingi 50,000 hadi shilingi 1,500. Na mkiwa katika kikundi mnaweza kukopa hadi shilingi milioni 10. Na isitoshe, zile SACCO ambazo ziko regulated na SASRA wanaweza kupata kuanzia milioni 10 mpaka milioni 100.
Meanwhile, a section of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition MPs have scoffed at the just-unveiled Hustler Fund, saying it did not meet the expectations of many Kenyans. The MPs compared the fund with other money lenders, saying that the President William Ruto-led administration lied to Kenyans on how to access the monies under the Hustler Fund. Suna East MP Janet Mohammed, while speaking in Parliament, accused Kenya Kwanza of hoodwinking Kenyans during campaigns with the promise that the fund will be free, but are now overtaxing them. According to the MP, the government ought to have minimized the interest rate to make the fund more affordable to Kenyans. Now, Kenya has flashed the amber light on its HIV intervention measures after 34,540 new infections were recorded in 2021. The new infections signify a 7.3% increase after nearly a decade of a declining new infections curve, putting the National Syndemic Disease Control Council on a pedestal to keep the numbers from rising further. Women bore the brunt of the new infections at 66.7% of the new infections, compared to men, who accounted for 33 3.3% of the total number. About 17,961 adolescents and young adults aged 15 to 29 tested positive for HIV in 2021, with the age group bearing the burden of new infections at 52%. This comes amidst declining donor funding, which had shrunk to 7.3 billion shillings by 2018, followed by the withdrawal of US-funded PEPFAR in 2019 as donors pushed for countries to support their health programs by internal funding. As of this financial year 2022-2023, Kenya's annual funding gap for essential HIV commodities stands at 100,454,190 shillings, including a 6-month buffer commodity stock, even as countries report a biting shortage of condoms, ARV drugs and testing kits for HIV. Now, Russia is keen to establish a Kenya-Russia parliamentary friendship group to enhance parliamentary diplomacy and engagements between the two countries. Speaker of the National Assembly Moses Wetangula and Russian ambassador to Kenya Dmitry Maksimichev made the observation during a meeting held in the parliament buildings. Maksimichev congratulated Wetangula for his election at the helm of the August House and called for bilateral collaborations in tourism, transport and technology, among other sectors. The two discussed issues regarding exchange programs between lawmakers of the countries aimed at knowledge sharing and learning from each other on politics and leadership. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alceda. Good morning.
The Spice Newswire is brought to you by Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. Go ahead and get yours today. It's your time.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, looking at a few minutes after 7 o'clock and started to see pickup of traffic in certain parts of the city. All right, coming off of Mombasa Road, we're seeing some of that and it's building up as you're going through to the CBD. Uhuru Highway looks pretty busy and it's all the way through into the city and then out towards Westlands. Looking at that stretch past the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out towards Haile Selassie at the junction, it's pretty busy. Let's take a look then at the Thika Superhighway, and that has built up traffic. You're coming off that Allsops junction towards Muthaiga Square. We're also looking at Kiambu Road that's building up through to Muthaiga Square. Heavy traffic, and we're already looking at bumper to bumper status. There's still the drizzle that's happening in Nairobi this morning, so we're going to watch out for that, and that means that we'll probably see heightened levels of traffic because of the slowdown. It's not too terrible on Jogger Road, but we're going to see it seeping on to Landis and then out towards Kamkunji this morning. It's building up on Gong Road. We'll see business as you're going out towards Gitanga and then through to Lavington. Mzima Springs also looks pretty busy, and we'll look at James Gishiro. It's going to spill over to Wayaki Way and some traffic then getting into the city. A few minutes after 7 o'clock means that it's going to build up and come into full force later. Let's know what's going on where you are this morning and trying by all means possible to keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 7 o'clock, good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Thursday morning. As we're getting into it at a few minutes after 7 o'clock and the lights are doing some interesting thing, but it's okay. We'll just continue as Ednah does her magic. All right, getting into it, we are reminding you that as you're taking that walkabout, step up and shine with Kiwi. So, schools have closed, exams, at least for 2 sections, are over, isn't it? And the KCSE are preparing to start their exams today, actually, and then going in tomorrow, and then over the next few weeks. School starts again next year in January, so we want you to be able to prepare for that. There are many activities that are going on, and then you're going to have to show up smart, and Kiwi allows you to do that. Polish your shoes and step up and shine with Kiwi. Once you buy a tin of Kiwi, you have the opportunity to send the code that you'll find on the inside to *459*5#. Enter the code, and you could stand a chance to win 35,000 shillings that goes towards school fees come January 2023. It's not pocket change. It's not chicken change. Good money when it comes to school fees and how it can help that dent in your pocket. So step up and shine with Kiwi going into the new year. Starting off the hour with today's proverb, CT, off your swanky gadget.
Yes, we haven't introduced the guest, so I can't I cannot show off this gadget.
I'll give you a minute to show off. Our guest is in the studio, and he's just looking at you as you want to show off. So show off a little bit, and then we'll see how he'll help you preen your feathers.
Engineer, this gadget is called a Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. The thing about it that is remarkable, well, at least what I find remarkable, is the clarity with which one sees things. In fact, I can actually show it to you so that you can see. It's clear to the point where it actually feels palpable. That's one. 2, its size.
It's thin.
Yes, exactly. And the screen is big enough. But this particular gadget has a charge that can last 3 days.
Wow.
Yes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday is when you start worrying about it. But the clarity with which you can read things is what I have found fascinating, especially if you're going to read a proverb.
From Guinea, no less.
The proverb is from the country of Guinea. And I've been telling our guests in the course of the week that it isn't Papua New Guinea. It is not Equatorial Guinea. It's not Guinea-Bissau. It's Guinea. Just Guinea.
Stand alone.
But
Stand alone, Guinea.
Yes. For news of the heart, ask the face. For news of the heart, ask the face. That's the proverb of the day.
I love it.
So does mine look like?
You look happy.
Good.
Is that what your heart is saying, engineer?
I think his heart is saying,
I'm a happy man.
The face rarely lies.
Indeed.
Yes, and if the face tells a lie, the eyes will correct you.
The man with a happy heart is engineer Michael Kamau, and he joins us in the studio today to talk about the menace of collapsing buildings in the country. Engineer Kamau, you're no guest to the Situation Room, but you all the same are a guest this morning in the hot seat. Karibu sana.
Asante. Thank you.
You're doing all right?
I'm good.
Since the last time we spoke,
yes,
it's good to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to see you once more.
Since the last time you were here, if we're just going to jump right into it,
yes,
a number of buildings have collapsed in the city.
In fact, we could say while you were away.
While you were away.
And they'll continue collapsing.
Yes. Oh dear.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Hold on. Just a minute. From 2013 until about 2015, you were the man who was tasked with overseeing roads and infrastructure.
Yes.
You built some good roads in this country. You got some things really cemented, no pun intended. But you oversaw infrastructure. Today, we seem to have a problem. And just as we were talking before we started this, you said today is not even the problem. 20 to 30 years from today,
yes,
is the problem.
What happens?
What happens?
If they are collapsing when they are new, even before they are occupied? What's going to happen when we are hit by an earthquake, a tremor, or strong winds that now are the thing with climate change? Or the way it happened in Germany, flooding, serious flooding along the valleys where people are building. It's going to have a very big impact on our economy. And number 2, the reputation, tourists, people coming into this country. 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, I only used to hear of buildings collapsing in Egypt, which is an ancient, maybe very old buildings. But now, every day in Kenya, every other day, and I'm sure there are buildings that never get to be seen on TV. So it's a serious situation.
We wanted to ask questions about why this is happening in the manner in which it's happening. Last week we had a conversation with, engineers.
Yes.
It's the profession of solutions, as we say, the career of solutions that gives solutions that should then be banked on. But then understanding the process through which, licenses are given, hopefully that procedure is followed, and that there's a certain modus operandi about how these things should be done. What are we looking at here? From your experience, from what you would ask that people actually do, what are we looking at here? And what should be, cautionary note in the back of our minds?
Number one, buildings don't collapse. They collapse for only one reason. Engineering. Nothing else. Not because they are tall, not because they are short, not because they are ugly, not because they are painted, not because they have windows, not because they don't have windows. It could be a cave without a window. It could have air conditioning. The answer is purely engineering. It is structural failure. Period. That's why they collapse. All buildings and all structures are designed to fail up to a certain limit. You can load it up to a certain limit. And without going into engineering details, buildings will collapse because of their own dead weight. That means if we evacuated all equipment and everything in this building, that is its dead weight. Then we come and we add things, we add people, that's live load. And then we can add other things, dynamic loads, like wind and earthquake. So that's what is going to cause the buildings to collapse. So it's pure engineering. If we start on that basis, then we are not going to have arguments about people trying to get into the spaces that they don't occupy. It is engineering. And that is the core of the problem that we should be tackling about. There are other issues about buildings, of course, but they may cause latent effect. If they are poorly ventilated, you may die from that. But the collapse of a building is purely an engineering matter. And that's where I start.
Do I hear you to be saying that everything that you've mentioned forms part of what anyone who is in the business of engineering or construction considers before they put up a building?
Exactly. Because when you are putting up a building, there are very many aspects to it.
Yes.
You start with the foundation. Are you on solid foundation? Because if you are not, then your building is going to sink. Or
what's a solid foundation, engineer?
A solid foundation is a foundation that is designed to withstand the loading that you are going to put on it.
And the loading is dead weight plus
dead weight plus the live load and other dynamic loads that are going to come, wind and earthquake, which generally just present horizontal loads.
Yes.
So that's what we are talking about. Now, from there, what materials do you use, and how do you use them? Okay, even in food, that some people cannot eat honey and drink milk. They have problems. So there is a system. Even if you had the best cement, the best aggregate, the best steel, yet you do not mix them properly, or even if you mix them properly, you do not place them properly, then you have a problem.
Meaning everything you're saying here, there's a science to it.
There is a science.
And that is what people go to study.
That's what people go to study.
Yes.
So why would you not place these things properly? It may sound like a very silly question, but why would you not do that?
And that's where everything becomes very, very complicated. Let's start with a building. Before you build, the owner has spent so much time to acquire that property. And there is a very, rigorous procedure. First of all, you do a search to find out whether that property is owned by somebody else. You go to a lawyer, somebody is selling, you craft an agreement, and you have to go to the Ministry of Lands to get consent to transfer. You transfer the documents, and then you get your title, and it is registered. Then you start deciding what kind of house you are going to put. Is it single story? Is it 2 stories? And so on. Then I wonder, and you have money, because the buildings that are collapsing are not 2 million, it's not 3 million.
No.
They are worth 20 million. Where does your knowledge stop? Where does your thinking stop? Somebody who has earned his 20 million, 30 million, does it just end when it comes to a position where you could spend maybe $500,000 to employ professionals or $1 million to employ professionals to safeguard your interest. But in all this, the person responsible is actually the government, because we know we cannot regulate ourselves. I mean, I want to get married, I fall in love with somebody, the government still steps in and tells me, oh no, you have to go to the AG chambers. Where is your ID? Your ID has to be proper. If your ID doesn't match your birth certificate, you have a problem. Then you have to be in the IPRS system. Then they tell you have to have 21 days. And even the government foresees a problem in your marriage and has arranged legal procedures for divorce.
Yes.
So, if I may take you back, maybe to give it a historical perspective, the first famous collapse in this country happened with the Sunbeam supermarket. Yes. I don't know whether you remember.
I remember it very well.
In 1996.
Because Sunbeam was in the middle of town.
Yes, and it was raining.
Yes.
And it was just a canopy. In that collapse, I lost a cousin. My cousin, with whom we were schoolmates in secondary school, 1996. Then we can move fast forward. The next shocking disaster that happened was the Sunbeam fire in downtown Nairobi. And the last famous one that really shocked this country was Nyamakema.
Yes.
You remember, in the middle of town. Yes. And that is when the government decided that something had to be done. After the Sunbeam collapse, there was a commission that was formed, led by Dr. Mutiso, a very renowned architect.
Yes.
They produced a report which was not acted upon. In 2006, when this Nyamakema building collapsed, the government came in and decided that they needed to do something. And having looked at the legislative framework, they decided that we needed to have a National Construction Authority. And the birth of the National Construction Authority was based on the Mutiso Commission report and the collapse of the Sunbeam. So I would place the blame mainly on collapsing building on the National Construction Authority, because the government did that legislative framework. They have powers to enter site, they have powers to stop construction, and subsequent to that also. And I'm saying this because I was instrumental. I was the PS in charge of public works, and that is when we did all these works with a lot of support from World Bank. The World Bank even bought equipment, furniture, vehicles for the National Construction Authority. Subsequent to that, I, as PS, working with World Bank, supported by World Bank through funding, we did what we did with the Engineers Act. Took it to Parliament, because before it was just the Engineers Registration Board, which had very limited scope, just registering engineers. But then, when we did the new act, it allowed engineers, through the Engineers Registration Board, to enter into any site and stop the construction. So again, I would say the registration is there. And subsequent to the Act, the National Construction Authority Act and the Engineers Act, they should have gone, or I think they have gone and formed now the regulations. We should enable them to regulate the construction industry. And I think the blame falls on those two institutions.
Yeah. The NCA may say something totally different, because they will say, they have said that some of these matters, they are an oversighting body, and that they cannot get directly involved in each and every construction that takes place. Is that a false notion?
I think that is weakness, because Parliament we have a Parliament in this country. If they feel that the registration is not enabling, they should just go and have the act amended. There was no National Construction Authority. It never existed. What they should do is we are changing our constitution, which is the supreme law. It has been changed. So why would we not amend the National Construction Authority? Why would we, the act that formed the National Construction Authority, that gives them now mandate, it didn't have to be perfect, but they could build on that act so that working with county governments such that they make county governments their agents to assist in supervision of construction and regulation of the structure. They cannot collide, and I don't think forming another authority other than the National Construction Authority to help in this situation is going to be helpful.
Well, you're not alone in this conversation, and joining us is our good friend Philip Kisia, who's a former town clerk, but then also a governance expert as we look at some of these matters today. The last time you were here, Philip, I said it should be Dr. Philip Kisia, so we're still working on that. I hope you're doing that with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Ndu. How are you?
Very well. Karibu sana.
Yeah, I'm still working on it, and I want to earn it.
You want to earn it? No, I'm just going to give it to you, of course.
I don't want to be given.
No, we're not just going to give it to you.
There are so many fake doctors around here.
Maybe fake others as well,
My engineer friend is not one of them.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I've not acquired the title.
You're not the quack type, so still work in progress.
Karibu sana. Thanks for joining us. I know that Nairobi in the morning can sometimes be quite a challenge, but we're glad that you're here. And we're looking at this menace in Nairobi. And not just in Nairobi, but in other parts of the country as well. And under your watch, looking at when you were in a leadership role in Nairobi, there were these incidences of buildings coming down. Probably one would say that they're happening with more regularity now. Engineer Kamau has told us that, look, the NCA has a role and responsibility to play here. What would you attribute this problem to? Too many have come down. What would you attribute it to, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me once again. We're just about to close the year, and for making it possible for me to meet my very old friend. I've not met him for probably 3-4 years now. I think.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, engineer. I still call him CS. He's my CS. And I worked with him for many years. Even before he became a CS or PS, and eventually a CS in the government of Kenya. In the government. When there was a government in Kenya.
Oh wow, okay.
The Mwai Kibaki government. I think that's only probably government that functioned in Kenya. We're looking forward to other governments in future.
You've said many things in that statement.
On a high note.
Yeah, facts are facts. They are painful, but they must be. We must say things as they are. And I know, bro, you'll admit that the Kibaki government, and that's why people refer to me as, Philip, you are the ones who worked in the Kibaki government. You are the ones who worked. I'm not the one saying it. But I'm only saying what people say. Let me get back to the topic of today.
Please.
I came in when an engineer was saying that the National Construction Authority has a mandate in building plan approvals. That's a devolved function. It's a devolved function. I think we need to refer to the 2010 Constitution. The National Construction Authority is an important authority. They register contractors, they oversight work of construction and contractors.
Yes.
Well, the department in the county that deals with planning approves building plan approvals. But my sister here said that, during my tenure, they were collapsed building. I say, I only ran the city for 36 months.
3 years.
3 years. And during that time, you can go back to your records, only 3 building collapse. I'm not saying it's a good record, because any building collapsing is,
it's loss.
It's a loss. Sometimes you lose human life. Of course, you lose money. And, you lose the image. So the loss is heavy. But let me say this, and I'll give you a little story. I remember there was a time, I'll not mention names here, because some of them are people we know.
Some of them are still alive.
Some of them are still alive. Some of them are dead. They're going to meet their creator. Thank God. But I remember very well, there was a building here in Embakasi, not too far from here. Actually, I think less than 4 or 5 minutes drive from here. My very good director of planning, Tom Odongo, and my dear friend Rose Mwema, those are the people I put in charge of planning department, came and told me, sir, there's a building in Bakassi that has, one has been constructed without our approval. We've tried to, we've given enforcement notice to bring it down. They have gone to courts. They've gone to court, and they have court order. But that building will collapse. So I sat in my office and said, okay, you mean you explain to the courts, the Kenyan courts, that there's a building likely to collapse and kill people, and they have issued an order? I said, yeah, an order has been issued. And I had to make a very hard decision to defy a court order. And I said, I would rather defy that court order, try and defend it in court, be imprisoned, than lose lives. And I called the OCPD and I said, you know what? I need security because we are going to pull down that building. And, everything was set. But the night before, I got a call from the same OCPD, and they told me, no, Philip, Mkubwa, please. Those fellows, the cartels, have organized 500 goons, armed. If you come there, more people will die. And I said, I don't care. I said, no, we have to call off the operation.
The operation of the building construction?
I was going to pull down that building, with or without a court order. And I told my team, it must come down. But again, you see, you already have been given an alert that your action will lead to more deaths. So I had to call off the operation. But I said that I will disobey that court order, bring down that building. So I issued in writing. Do you know what? 3 days after the operation was called off, the building collapsed.
Were there people inside that building?
Yes, it was under construction. And I think we lost, very unfortunately, we lost about, I think, 2 lives, not about 2 lives. Okay? But still I was going to appear in court the same week. So now, these other fellows rushed to court and said, this man has disobeyed a court order. He has already given an enforcement notice, and he should go to jail. So it was God's act.
For you to stop it ahead of time.
That I'm supposed to appear before the same judge to be jailed, but jailed for what?
Because the building collapsed.
The building has come down. Not through my act, but because the building was poorly constructed. It was built on weak sand. No approval, nothing, no engineering, nothing. It came down. So the point being that, the National Construction Authority is there. The Department of City Planning then, or now County Planning Department, are there. And I can tell you for free, at least so far as the county is concerned, it is run by professionals.
Okay, let's take a break, because if it's run by professionals and it's happening in the manner in which it should be, then the question still remains, then why are buildings still coming down? It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. In the studio with us this morning, engineer Michael Kamau and Philip Kisia, soon to be Dr. Philip Kisia, with us, and we're discussing the menace of collapsing buildings in the country. Buildings coming down. At the same time, there are buildings going up. Centum is saying, look, it's very possible for you to own a piece of real estate. There's a 102-acre development, and remarkably one of the best master plan developments in Nairobi's Blue Diplomatic Zone, a place to enjoy and live, work and play lifestyle. The level of urban infrastructure at Two Rivers is just what you need for your home. Live, play and work in the same place. It's got the largest private water treatment on standby to meet all your water needs, in-house power substation for power reliability, including backup, the 5G hotspot for your internet needs, and best security systems for your safety. 495,000 shillings, and the balance in flexible installments or finance from your SACCO or bank. All you need to do is send a message to 22365. Somebody will get in touch with you. Book a visit. Go and see what's up to offer. It's 27 minutes to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Enjoy Black November with Cold Stone Creamery Kenya. Get 2 Gotta Have It cups and 2 cake slices at only 1,500 Kenya shillings. And other amazing deals for you and your friends this November. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and enjoy creamy, smooth ice cream and deliciously crafted ice cream cakes. Ice cream is always a great idea.
Meet the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 series with the new epic standard for tablets. The Galaxy Tab S8, S8 Plus, and S8 Ultra come with the brand new S8 Pen, so you can power your creativity and take your productivity to the next level. Featuring the fastest chip ever on a Samsung Galaxy tablet, you can be sure of lightning fast speeds when you play or work. Connect your Tab S8 to your other Galaxy devices for a seamless, continuous experience. Available in select Samsung stores countrywide. It's a magical Christmas at Westgate Shopping Mall. Spend 1,000 Kenya shillings and above and stand to win an all-inclusive Mediterranean cruise to the most beautiful cities in Europe. Visit Rome, Venice, Barcelona, and get to bring someone with you. You also have the chance to win once-in-a-lifetime balloon safari over the Masai Mara and a luxury stay at Marangecha Camp, and the opportunity to win 500,000 worth of luxury furniture from Queen Picks. It's magical and it's all yours to experience.
All right, so we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 16. We'll go to highs of 24 and lows of 16 today. Partly sunny conditions at 15 in Nakuru. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 11. 22 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri at 14. We're looking at 14 and mostly cloudy in Eldoret, and looking at rain showers at 26 in Mombasa, going to highs of 31 and lows of 25. Partly sunny conditions in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Light rain in Kampala at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 17, and we'll see lows of 25 in a rainy Dar es Salaam. It's 14 and cloudy, rather 16 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 32 in a mostly clear Lagos at 26. It's 23 and raining in Kinshasa. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Chilled Spice.
All right, still looking at cloudy conditions, and rather, as we look through cloudy conditions through most of Nairobi, the traffic is also building up in certain parts. We're looking at Jogo Road. It's busy as you get towards Landis, but then Landis is not looking too bad inbound traffic today out towards Kamkunji. It'll take you to a bit of a messy CBD area. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, it's really heavy bumper to bumper all the way through to the Pangani underpass, and then touching on what's coming off of Kiambu Road. You want to use the service lanes on the Thika Superhighway. They will offer up, a better option for you to get out there. Let's look at what's going on in Westlands. Some traffic then coming out towards James Gishuru and then out towards Waiakiwe into the city as well. Apart from that, nothing's going to be breaking your back, at least not just yet. We're going to keep an eye on things. Let us know what's going on where you are. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
At 22 minutes to 8 o'clock, Kenya's biggest conversation continues this morning. Ndu Oko and CT Muga with you today. Eric away for some days, but our conversations continue. We're in the studio talking about the menace of collapsing buildings, joined by engineer Michael Kamau and friend Philip Kisia. Now, Philip, as we came off the break, talking about a devolved function with the departments at the county level, and that there is professionalism that is practiced. before you came in, Engineer Kamau told us that this is an engineering problem. And then we say there's professionalism going on. So where is the issue? There must be a spot that is being missed here. If you're telling us that there are people who hire goons to make sure this doesn't happen, it seems to me as though impunity and corruption is at the heart of this very matter. But maybe you have a different outlook to this.
Thank you, Ndu. You know, what my brother has said is true. But there are other factors that contribute to collapse of buildings. And I would say that he is right by saying that, engineers should be taking the stick. But the other factors. One, the materials that are used in constructing the buildings. And who approves the materials? It is Kenya Bureau of Standards. KBS. They're the ones who are mandated to look at the quality of our goods and materials. So are they doing their job? Is one question. Kenya, the National Construction Authority, the oversight, are they ensuring that things are done the way they're supposed to be done? That materials are right, that the engineers professionals have actually been involved in the process of construction. Okay. Then there is the issue of I think the geo report. Okay, which I think is not being taken into account. Do they look at the soil profile?
Geotechnical.
The geotechnical report. Do they look at the soil profile? Do they look at the structural integrity of the foundation? That is the work now of the National Construction Authority, because they're the ones who approve the construction companies. But then also the Department of Planning. As the work progresses, are there audits that are carried out by professionals? So, Ndu, you're right. It actually just boils back to things that we talk about. Number one, that there are cartels operating in this city and in other cities and in this country, that they do things with impunity, that you can actually start constructing a building that will be occupied not by animals but by human beings, and you go up to the 12th floor without approvals. You're using the wrong materials, you are using quacks. Everything is just totally wrong.
And without even a lift.
Then you ask yourself, what is then the county government doing in terms of enforcement and compliance? What is the National Construction Authority doing? And the other agencies like NEMA, to ensure that, the environment is protected.
NEMA.
KEBS, yes, NEMA.
Okay.
KEBS.
So, Ndugu Philip, know the thing is, you suffer from the same malady that I do. It's historical. When you're a certain age, as does the engineer, we all know over time when things worked.
Correct.
Okay. And they worked a certain way, and you could rely on those processes. You more or less took them for granted. You knew this is the path, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. That is no longer the state of things in this country.
Nothing has changed. I tell people that there was murder. And I always tell people that the first murder was committed by God's grandchildren.
Yes.
You see? So let's not get shocked. And buildings used to collapse, the Tower of Babel, and they'll continue that way. People are marrying. You remember I gave an example?
Yes.
That the government, the blame squarely falls on the government. Because we have proved that we cannot regulate ourselves. We have proved that we can drive cars when we are drunk. Somebody killed people at the bypass. 7 people drunk. Okay, then they want to say the road is not okay. The government intervenes in everything. And that is why my good friend here said, National Construction Authority, engineering professionals, the planners who approve and actually receive fees, because the county government, they receive fees for approval. Every time they visit, they are supposed to see.
Mhm.
But do they follow up? Now, you have touched on something. Cement. Before, there used to be only one type of cement. You could only make class 20 and class 30. Now we have a lot of Pozorana, OPC, and I don't want to talk about the cement in several classes of cement.
And what do they do? I mean,
Now-
talk about it. I mean, what do they achieve?
And you recall I said, even if you are the best cement, the best steel, the best aggregate, the best sand, how you put them together is a different matter. You can even, what we do, you can corrugate very well in the mixer. Have the right mix. But when you go to place it, maybe all you are shattering has voids, and therefore all the grout comes out.
Okay.
So it is a continuous process that needs to be monitored. And the government, which is responsible for the safety of its people, is quite responsible. And we don't need more institutions.
I understand, but let me just hold you there,
Yeah.
engineer. You're telling us things about engineering. So maybe this is why then you started at that point, that it's about engineering. So the people who are in charge, because from what we understand, every site construction, that fancy board that we see at every construction, you have your developer, you have your architect, you have your planner, you have your site engineer. So the assumption is that this engineer, if they're worth their salt, and we would hope that they were, have all of these things taken into consideration. Don't come and ask me about mixed grout or whatever.
Yeah.
The assumption is that you know what this formula is supposed to be. The question is, the person who approves these things to be done, we can only assume, should have the very basic knowledge of these things that you're talking about. Are we then saying that the person who is approving these projects to go ahead either does not have the knowledge of these details that you're telling us, has the knowledge but is ready to maybe take a kickback to allow a less than authentic process continue, or number three, just turns a blind eye to these poor
My friend here, Philip, has even gone a step back. We are assuming that all buildings are approved. And he has just told you that probably in this Nairobi, maybe over 50% of the buildings that are coming up have not even ended up at City Hall. And therefore, City Hall is blind to those. And that is why I'm placing the responsibility, because the moment you start digging, before those 500 goons are brought, you should never start digging until you prove that you have approved plans.
To whom? To whom are you proving?
Exactly, and that is the role of the government, because the county governments ought to have people in estates. Let's say it is this area, they can divide it into 5 square meters and buy motorbikes for their people so that they are moving around, to know that the building has approved plans. Because the biggest problem, and he mentioned it, is that we have very many unapproved and what we call illegal structures. That means their records are not there at City Hall.
But engineer, unapproved meaning what exactly? Meaning the due process that is required to give you the authorization to start, or the existence of papers that indicate it's been approved, because you can have the papers but you didn't go through that process.
Exactly. Let me put it this way.
Yes.
The moment it's an illegal structure means the property could be yours or not even yours, because we have seen, like Bakasi, people don't have titles. You go, mnakanyaga hatua 10, you are told, Muga, this is your property. The next day, you have a fundi, alijenga ile nyumba, you start, I want build like that. You know, the way anasema, nijege kama ile ya Kisia. Ni mimi kama unajega, nijege kama ile ya Kisia. Fundi wako wapi? And then you start. So City Hall, first of all, even the land that you are building on could not even be registered. You may not even have a title. Even if you had a title, City Hall has not seen your plans. You have not even submitted anything. That is an illegal structure. Then we could have a situation where City Hall has received fees and approved the plans and then doesn't follow up. So that's why I'm saying, at the end of the day, it's the government that is responsible.
Engineer, I want to take this discussion elsewhere.
Yes.
You see, when we started the show off air, I alluded to it. The lawyers have a school where you study law in the university, then they take you and tell you, before we actually allow you to go around representing people and doing these things, you have to go to that school, Kenya School of Law as they call it, okay?
Doctors?
Now, yes, doctors also have something similar. You go for internship, all these things. I'm sure engineers do. Now, you were in a position where the sort of structure I'm alluding to would be created. Why do I mention this? The impunity, we all understand, we know. The check and balance within government is next to non-existent. So, I see the Law Society of Kenya intervening in things, court cases. Now,
Exactly.
a similar body would provide the sort of oversight that the National Construction Authority might not be able to provide. But it would be effective because they are the people who have the training and the background and who are able to actually understand what ought to be done. Tell me, the structures to have such a school, the structures to ensure that such a body exists so that the regulation that we are talking of is actually in place.
Now, I alluded to the fact that we used to have the engineers registration board.
Yes.
That was the act of
Yes.
1969. During my tenure as PS, we worked on and amended to become the Engineers Act. Note, Engineers Registration Board, that means their work was just to register engineers in that period. Within that act, there is supposed to be a school of engineering where before engineers are registered, they come to what I would call a finishing school. You have done your 4 or 5 years of training, and then you come to that school for about three months, and then you become a professional engineer. And also, professional engineers go back there to what I would call refresher courses. So it's there in the Act. It has not been implemented. The National Construction Authority also ought to have such an institution, like in Korea, and we are basing it on Korea. Korea has an Institute of Construction Technology of Korea, where contractors actually go to upgrade their certificates. It's not just you presenting that you have 5 tracks, you have these, and you have that. You must prove that you have gone to an institute. Now, for example, I'll give you a good example. All road contractors, we made it mandatory that all road contractors, if you want to go and do rural roads, you must go to the KIBIT, Kenya Institute of Highways and Building Technology. And that is how you get a license to do road construction. And you must produce it before you are awarded a contract. So one of the things that should be happening is, for example, here the National Construction Authority can enter in forcefully, is to go to sites and find out, and they can do it within their regulations. If you are building, say, a storage building, you must be a registered contractor with them. Not just Muga deciding that now because I have money, I'm going to employ 2-3 foodies to build a 10-story building. So I must say that the registration framework, the registrative framework is there. We just have people who don't understand or who are not thinking, period.
What needs to be done? And I think this is the thing. Since we're talking about, a profession of solutions, we're looking for solutions again today. Philip came in all guns blazing and talking about, a government that can or should work. I have Honorable Shakil Shabir, who's sending me message after message talking about a group in Parliament now that is set up to do what? He says there is an architectural professional caucus just formed in Parliament. Ask Engineer PS to help us amend the said bill to be able to have them now be professionally engaged when it comes to things like this. Solutions is what we are looking for. Philip, in order for this thing to work, because for me, one building, one floor, one brick out of a building falling is enough, is more than enough. We don't have to have many more people dying. We don't have to have the loss. We're talking about billions of shillings in loss this year alone. Lives lost. We can castigate all, but what are we saying is the solution to this?
I'm happy that you say that, and my good brother engineer has already said that we have sufficient regulation. We have a lot of professionals. Kenya has a lot of qualified people. We're not short of qualified people, engineers, planners, architects, and what have you, lawyers, and name it. But I think the will of government to act is lacking. Simple. Because if government acted, if government invested in these area, like places like Singapore, Malaysia, Korea, this nonsense will stop tomorrow. Because in those jurisdictions, if you went out of the act or regulations, you'll be in jail the following day. They don't waste time like we waste time here. Okay? You bribe your way through, you do the wrong things. Everything is done incorrectly because of what? The love of money. So the question that you are asking is, what can we do to stop? Number one, I've just said, and the engineer said, let people do it. Let the government act. But even as we are acting, there are certain interventions that we can put in place. I remember during my tenure, and I'm happy that the master plan that is being implemented right now was actually put together by my administration with the help of JICA, the master plan for Nairobi. What we failed to do was now to actually do spatial plans, area-specific plans. Okay? Then finally, the other thing that, because all the regulations are there, what we need to do, like engineer said, and I just want to probably add on something a little on what he said. You know, have these people on picky and going around. I think, because see, all these institutions, be it National Construction Authority, be it City Planning Department, they may not have the capacity, internal capacity, to carry out this work. In my view, they can now start engaging professional bodies, okay? Professional bodies, to help them audit work that is being carried out. So the audit must start from day one. Continuous audit until the building is constructed. They then write a report to City Hall or to the other various agencies that are involved before an occupation certificate is issued. So there's monitoring as work is going on at every stage by professionals who have been outsourced because of lack of internal capacity. So these bodies, the Department of City Planning or the National Construction Authority, should, be left to manage the function. But the actual work is done by the professional bodies. I remember during my tenure, because the first thing I did, because that's where people make money, tusidanganyane hapa, that's where people make money in City Hall. When I came in, I said, number one thing that we must do in the city of Nairobi is to automate building plan approvals. No human contact.
In the system, it tells you whether you can go through or not.
You are here as an architect. You know this thing of saying, city, see, I passed by your office, I have these plans for approval. No.
How did that work?
We were sponsored by World Bank.
And does it function today?
It used to function during my time, okay? And give me a minute, I'll tell you.
We took a step backwards.
Let me tell you, that's where people make money. So I said, kata hiyo, remove this bloody nonsense. Get this thing automated, submit your plans using your AK registration number. Submit your plans. Those plans are then received by a secretariat. And do you know what I did? I removed City Hall from that secretariat. Their job was just to facilitate that secretariat. I brought in engineers, planners, QSs, quantities. I brought in the professional body, and I said, you know what? You have been blaming City Hall for collapsed building and poor work. I now make you in charge of approvals as a secretariat. And building plans in this city used to be approved every 2 weeks.
Multi-sectoral.
Multi-sectoral team. And I said every 2 weeks, I want to see. So once you have approved as professionals, and my team is providing you secretariat services, The next step is to take it to the, as required by the bylaw, is taken to the planning committee. And I told the planning committee, you are councillors. I'm not a planner, I'm not an engineer. Once these guys have said this thing is right,
then
your job is to minute. Your job is to minute it, na kupitisha. We have no business. Okay? And that is why in 36 months, even the buildings who collapsed were not the ones that we had approved. The ones which were illegal or approved before we came in.
Honestly,
okay? So now...
Philip, I really wish you had come in earlier, because now our time is running out.
Right.
And obviously, the solutions that you're talking about are things that actually can be practiced here. So I think this is a conversation that needs to continue in this in the manner in which it has started this morning. But, we're coming towards 8 o'clock. It's a menace. It's a problem. And one of the ways in which probably we can see change is continue to talk about it. In a quick yes or no, jail those responsible, engineer? Jail those responsible for a collapsed building in 10 seconds? Yes?
It
no?
won't help. It won't help.
help.
And the problem is even worse. You see, we are talking, and as I said, latent.
Yeah.
What's going to happen 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Number two, is not just new buildings. Nairobi now has aging buildings.
Yeah.
Who is actually auditing them, as Kizia said? I'm calling me Engineer Kizia.
Yeah.
As he
because
said.
I'm speaking like
Number
one.
two, the alterations that are made. People are moving into buildings and starting alterations without...
Yeah.
It's a
problem.
It's a big problem.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. We're around about 8 o'clock. The conversations continue.
2 seconds.
We're at 8 o'clock, Philip, and we need to come back and talk
do
about
2
that
seconds.
another day. Asante Sana, Philip, Engineer Michael Kamal.
Shoot
thank
them.
you for joining us.
Shoot them. Don't jail them. Just shoot them.
The facilitator of the East Africa Community-led Nairobi Peace Process has urged the participants in the third inter-Congolese dialogue process to work towards finding lasting solutions to the disputes in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Speaking at the ongoing Nairobi Third Consultative Dialogue Process, Kenyatta said solutions for the country's conflict can only originate from the citizens themselves, assuring them of East African community's support towards restoration of peace in the nation. He commended the representatives of the armed groups who have so far agreed to cease fire and pursue dialogue, urging them to forgive each other and live as one united people. Recalling the period he visited Kinshasa and Goma, where the citizens expressed optimism about the Nairobi Third process, the former head of state asked the Congolese to steer the process as the EAC provides conducive environment for consultative consultations on the future of DRC. He emphasized that the prosperity of the nation certainly depends on their collective responsibility to reconcile and unite. Now, supporters and residents of Isli protested outside Mdivani Law Courts, where Officer Ahmed Rashid filed a case stopping his prosecution over the murder of two. Rashid, through his lawyers led by Dunstan Omari, challenged his plea taking scheduled for next week on Thursday. However, Amnesty International's Irungu Houghton says Rashid should allow the court to make its ruling on his innocence.
None of those people who were present during that heinous act has recorded a statement. So on what basis does IPOA move to say they are going to charge our client?
The counsels for Corporal Rashid perhaps have panicked because that chance was coming before the High Court on December the 8th. They have filed an application essentially to stop the process that would allow for the determination of who was guilty for the killing of those two men and whether Corporal Rashid is in fact innocent.
Still in the corridors of justice, and Top Cohen's family has opposed the decision by the DPP to withdraw murder charges against his wife Sarah Wairimu. Through lawyers Dunstan Omari and Cliff Ombeta, the family has told the court that the DPP has not given sufficient reasons why the matter should be withdrawn. The DPP said they decided to withdraw because of the affidavit by DCI officer John Gashomo, in which he retracted earlier affidavits related to the case. However, Omari argues that the Gashomo affidavits being mentioned by the prosecution have not been supplied to them. A ruling on the withdrawal will be issued on Tuesday next week. And rights defenders from all 47 counties are undergoing a rigorous capacity building exercise in Nairobi to effectively network, promote and protect rights. The training organized by Defenders Coalition will culminate in a recognition ceremony for outstanding rights defenders in Kenya tomorrow. The award ceremony will recognize, honor, and appreciate the extraordinary work of human rights defenders in the protection of human rights while they face many challenges in their capacity as agents of social change and transformation. Now, police officers in Mombasa County are investigating 3 incidents that led to the lynching of 7 people. 6 of them were burnt to death, while 1 was rescued by congregants before being pronounced dead at the Coast General Hospital. The 3 separate mob justice incidents in Mjambere Ward, Kisauni, are the latest cases of suspected robbers dealt with by civilians taking the law into their own hands over the last 3 days. Janet Sidi Kadenge is mourning the loss of her 3 sons, Kahindi Kazungu, Karisa Kazungu, and Katana Kazungu, who were lynched and their bodies raised. Now, the cost of living as measured by inflation has eased slightly to 9.5% in November from 9.6% in October, according to new KNBS data. The year-over-year change in consumer prices has marked the first decline in 9 months since February, when inflation fell to 5.1% from 5.4% in January. The suggested peak in inflation has been supported by 0.4% decline in food inflation, with the prices of commodities and food and non-alcoholic beverages rising by 15.4% in the period from 15.8% in October. Housing and energy costs have also risen by a slower rate of 6.1% compared to 7.1% in October. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
It's a few minutes after 8 o'clock and we're looking at traffic that's building up in different parts of the city, but it's not too crazy a Thursday from what we see. On the Thika Superhighway, it's your normal Thursday morning traffic. It's building up and then going through towards the Pangani underpass. We do have quite some traffic on Kiambu Road and it's heading out towards Muthaiga Square. That's busy. Limuru Road is not the network of mess that we saw happening yesterday. We're looking at a little bit of traffic here and there coming off of James Gishoro. It's crossing over to Wayaki Way and out of Lavington, through from Gitanga Road, out from Naivasha Road and connecting from Gong Road. That whole network is really busy. Into the CBDs where most of the action is happening this morning. We're looking at traffic on Uhuru Highway and it's getting out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then out towards Haile Selassie at that junction. So 8 o'clock traffic, we're into traffic hour proper now, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anything backbreaking, at least not this morning. Let's keep an eye on things. What's going on where you are? Ooh, service lanes on the Thika Superhighway. Use them.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock and going into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, kicking off and looking at, so about just make the hour and tell you about some great discounts that are happening. The Samsung Z Flip 4 is up for grabs at 37,000 shillings.
Let me help
Let me
you
just
here.
organize things in my mouth. 37,500 shillings
Yes.
less than what it would ordinarily cost.
Kabisa.
If you were not having this Black November offer, you would have to buy it at 150,000 shillings. But Samsung is saying, you know what? It's Black November. The year is coming to an end. Let's do this. Let's knock 37,500 shillings off. So just look for 112,500 shillings. You have this and flip over to this wonderful side of technology with your tech companion, the Samsung Z Flip 4. I'm still on discounts. You polish your shoes, you look snazzy, but you also have a chance to win 35,000 shillings going towards school fees. Thank you to Kiwi. Step up and shine as you polish your shoes and see yourself in that reflection of your perfect shine. You also have the chance when you send, or rather when you dial *459*5#, enter the code under the lid and have a chance to win 35,000 shillings that goes towards school fees. When you're starting the 72 days of January, come 2023, I think this actually will come in pretty handy. Don't you think? I think it will. Okay, I give you one more discount. We're looking at how you can buy a piece of land in cash with Olive Limited in any of your projects and get 50,000 shillings cash back. How about that? Land, school fees, technology. Olive Consulting is actually saying, Olive Limited rather, is saying that you could get 50,000 shillings back of any of their projects if you buy land, and you can talk to 0704 30 30 30. Santa Claus has come to town in the form of me this morning. And as we start off the hour, our guest is already in the studio. It's World AIDS Day. And before we introduce him, CT off another gadget wants to give us today's proverb.
Most certainly, definitely. Yes, it is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Right? But I'm only using it to do what?
To tell us today's proverb from
Precisely,
Guinea.
from the country of Guinea. Daktari, when you hear the name Guinea, I know people think of Guinea-Bissau. It's not that Guinea. Equatorial Guinea, not that Guinea. Papua Guinea, not that Guinea. It is just Guinea. Neither is it Guinea, the bird, the avian creature. No, it's the country of Guinea. For news of the heart, ask the face. That's today's proverb. For news of the heart, ask the
face.
Precisely. The face tells you the whole story.
You will not lie?
It can try, but it won't succeed. No.
Okay. Dr. Jared O. Mecha is in the studio with us today. Good morning, Daktari.
Morning, and thank you for having me.
Karibu Sana. Welcome to the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, and you are in the hot seat today. We're talking about a hot topic. It's World AIDS Day. There are many things that have been said about HIV. Over the last 10 years, we've seen quite a lot in change, and maybe new things. And you're here to tell us all about that today, even as we mark or commemorate this day. But I'm looking at your titles, Daktari, and there are many acronyms. MB, CHB, MMed, MSc, MPH, FCR. Whatever do those all mean?
Oh, that's the baking I've had to go through to be
to
here.
Come out as a full cake.
Yeah, it's it's the oven.
It's the oven.
Yes.
You have more acronyms than an NGO. You're well baked.
Thank you.
Of this baking, you obviously have been involved in HIV research, HIV strategy, learning. And here we are celebrating many, many years since HIV was first discovered in the world and then discovered on this side of the pond.
Correct.
Where are we? I mean, even as we go into commemorating this World AIDS Day, where are we today? Before we even start going into, the details, give us the scope of your work over time.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, and it's nice to meet an old friend that we also worked with a while back at the University of Nairobi. So I think where we are, I can confidently say that we are at a tipping point where you can either tip right or left, and we are all hoping that we can tip right. I have been in this space for about 20 years, but actively about 15 years. really managing reasonably large projects that are bringing help to people living with HIV or those at risk of HIV. So that's the space I have been for about 15 years. Yes.
Yeah. How has HIV and the study of it developed? How has it morphed? When first we saw hordes of people dying, families left, without their breadwinners, young children being taken care of by grandparents, entire villages, towns being wiped out, and then where we are today, where we are saying those young people who were taken care of by their grandparents are the ones now who are leading in terms of infections.
Absolutely. I think you've ended on the more tough note. But we've made excellent progress, I can say. We could have done better, but we can live with the progress we've made. So currently in Kenya, we estimate that we have about 1.4 million people living with HIV. We estimate that about between 900,000 and 1.1 million of those are already on treatment, on effective, really powerful antiretroviral therapy. So we have a gap of anything between 130,000, 200,000 that we still need to get on treatment. So as far as that's concerned, we've really come a long way. The deaths are down 63% from 2000. From a height of about 200,000 deaths every year, we are down to about 35,000. I mean, that's progress to celebrate. New infections are also down about 53%, from also a height of about 200,000 in 2000. In the early parts of 2000, we down to about 35,000. So down 53%. What you mention is really what we. So in terms of new infections and deaths, we moving in the right direction. Okay. I would say we are not moving in the right direction, and what you mentioned is really the profile of the new infections is worryingly among young persons. So persons between 15 years and 24 years contributed up to 42% of new infections last year, the latest data we have. Yeah. And obviously that is a trend that we all must do something about. Yes.
So because they're new infections, obviously these are not those who are born with it. They are not cases of mother-to-child transmission. They are new infections, and we're looking between 18 and 24. So what is the nature then of the cause of these infections? Are we looking at sexual activity? Are we looking at drugs use with syringes? What, from the research that has happened, would be the cause of this infection?
So in terms of the what you may call the modes of transmission, so as you say, yes, 15 to 25, we are largely talking about those that are not from mother to child, which we can talk about a little later, where we've also made significant progress, but there's still quite a lot to be done. But these are largely, as you know, in this country, the largest proportion is heterosexual. So it's, as you say, it's sexual activity among these young persons, or in these young persons. We have a small proportion that is from injection drug use, which is obviously of a concern, and there's also quite good progress that is being made in that space. So I would say the largest proportion is really sexual, and then a small proportion that is injection drug use.
The subject and the topic of HIV important as it is, concerning as it is, somehow took a back seat when COVID came into town. To the point where I think for many people it was assumed that any issues arising from HIV had been sorted out and concluded. And then every once in a while, something about ARVs and issues around it pop up. Something around the availability of ARVs pop up. And so one is reminded. What is it that World AIDS Day hopes to achieve, kick off when you have a day such as this one, and more so when you have a theme such as the one we have for this year, equalize? What is this thing that is being sought after? What is it that we are trying to equalize? What are we trying to ensure that we achieve, not just on the day we commemorate the day, but going forward so that it has the impact that we desire?
So thank you, CT. I think you mentioned a couple of very important things. Number one, the COVID epidemic or pandemic. One of the things that the COVID pandemic taught us is something around resilience. Can we have public health systems that can sustain gains in health gains, irrespective of shocks? Because what COVID-19 was a shock to the public health system, to the medical system, and what we know is that we didn't do a great job in terms of resilience. We let the ball drop, and therefore, a day like this, one of the things we need to reflect on is really how do we create resilient public and medical health systems. And really, when you talk about public health system, it goes beyond clinical care, beyond hospitals. It goes to society, it goes to communities, and so on. So I think that's one of the most important things that you raised there. So we know that the number of people that needed to be tested during the COVID pandemic went down. We know that there are people who missed their medication because of the COVID pandemic and the closures and the fear of going to facilities and all that. We know that, for example, there's now evidence that the number of TB cases that we needed to identify, we didn't quite identify those, which means people died unnecessarily from what you may call preventable infectious diseases like TB and complications of HIV infection. So I think that's the first thing. That yes, during that period, we did drop the ball because our public health system was not fully resilient. For me, was almost in both world of COVID and HIV. Of course, there are things we did to try and make it easier for people to continue accessing the care that they needed. So that's number one. Number two, a day like this, I think, which is to your second point, what this day help us to do is really to reflect. And to reflect on things like what you've mentioned, COVID. Can we build resilient public health systems? I think that's the first thing. And that's what everybody should be really looking at. You cannot look forward without looking back. So we have to look to the last 2-3 years and say, can we build resilient public health systems that can overcome shocks? And these shocks can be they say it's not if, it is when we have another pandemic. So can we build that kind of resilience? These shocks can be political. You would recall that during the unfortunate political violence that we have had in the past, really we also lost gains in terms of HIV prevention, care and treatment. And therefore they can, of course, we look to a future where we will not go back to a situation of political violence. So they can be economic. So, for example, during the COVID pandemic, one of the things that what happened is that people lost livelihoods. And those losing livelihoods put them in vulnerable positions, situations that increased their risks of disease, whether you are talking about HIV or other communicable diseases. So I think that's one of the things that really we need to be doing on a day like this. And then finally, in terms of equalize is really saying, okay, we have made this progress, but we have these pockets of vulnerability, and those are the pockets we need to eliminate. We have those that we have sadly forgotten. Those need to be lifted up. And the first place really to begin in terms of equalize is those gender norms and gender practices that put people in vulnerable positions. So we're talking about gender-based violence, for example. Can we really once and for all say we are putting the whole idea of gender-based violence behind us, and say that it's really not it's not something we should tolerate. So I think that's the first thing, that gender-based violence and certain gender norms put our compatriots, our sisters, our brothers in positions that increase their vulnerability and their risks. So that's the first thing. And also equalize in terms of young people. We've seen how the infections, 42% of all new infections among young people. So what are the interventions that we need to have that really support young people to protect themselves?
What are some of those, Daktari? Because here we are just looking at reports that were done over time. If we look at the period between Friday and Monday, and now this is getting into the nitty-gritty of it. If we look at the period between Friday and Monday, the number of young people that are visiting chemists and pharmacies on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and a Monday morning is to get pregnancy preventive medication. And so obviously there is unprotected sex that is occurring, and the worry is not about STIs, for which HIV is one of them. The worry is about pregnancy, and it has been forgotten, or maybe it's not even being acknowledged, that there needs to then be care-seeking behavior when it comes to sexual activity.
Absolutely.
It's a big deal that 84% of the medication that is being sought for pregnancy prevention is being bought by people in this same age bracket, for which we are saying the rise of infections is most highly within. Obviously, we can connect the dots here.
Correct.
And it is clear then that the approaches towards this need to be targeted in terms of knowledge, in terms of education, in terms of advocacy. It doesn't mean that we have to reinvent the wheel, but it just means, from where I look at it, that a lot more work has to be done in those areas to be able to get the message home. Because there are young people who believe that they can't get HIV. And here we are seeing that they have the highest brunt when it comes to infections today.
So thank you. I think that's an excellent observation, which is actually backed by data. And so it's and you've mentioned some of the interventions, but I think the most important thing, as I said, is not to drop the ball. It's messaging. It is not to let the horror of what HIV infection is escape people's minds in terms of where we've come from. So we may be in a space where people are beginning to think, okay, we all celebrate that it's now a chronic, manageable long-term condition. But we really have to work on prevention. And you've mentioned some of those things. We have to continue putting emphasis on education, on awareness, on... for me, it's a great thing that people are visiting healthcare establishments of whatever definition, for some kind of care? Can we wrap that around in terms of making sure that there is what you call comprehensive sexual reproductive health, so that it's comprehensive. It's not just pregnancy, but it is the whole package, including the psychological aspects, other infections, sexually transmitted infections, and all those other things. So comprehensive sexual reproductive health, but also really looking at beyond the health aspect into what you may call structural aspects. So what are those structural aspects that put these young people in situations where they take certain risks? Right. So are we talking about extreme want, extreme poverty? Are we talking about issues of parenting? So really improving parenting skills. Are we talking about situations of substance abuse? So really going into the whole area of substance abuse, and I'm sure there is now a very lively conversation about the sale of alcohol in various places around town. Have we made the access to psychoactive agents, and the commonest of which is alcohol, too common, too accessible, in a manner in which it is used in ways in which it puts individuals at risk of these infections and other things. One of the things, for example, looking at the data during the COVID lockdowns, if you looked at people coming to our emergency rooms, trauma went down. Yeah, completely. Like, we're no longer seeing trauma. Why did it go down? Because people were not drinking irresponsibly, and driving drunk, and getting into brawls in drinking places and all that. And as soon as the lockdowns were lifted, the trauma cases in our emergency department started increasing. So it's really the same. There is sort of some kind of correlation. Yeah. Between what you see as the totality of the negative effect of psychoactive, the irresponsible use, or what you may call unsafe use of psychoactive agents, and the way people put themselves at risk, whether you are talking about HIV, other sexually transmitted infection, and trauma. And therefore, so I would say it's a whole package of looking at structural issues, looking at behavioral issues, looking at interpersonal issues, children versus parenting, and the school, how we engage schools as avenues, and are really availing what you may call comprehensive sexual reproductive health for these young persons.
Okay. It's now 29 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a break. We're continuing on World AIDS Day today, talking about some of the interventions that are being made. And the funding issue is a big one, Daktari. Funding by, international organizations has been a big deal in the fight against HIV. We're going to come back and discuss that. It's Kenya's biggest conversation at 29 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Light rain continues in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's mostly sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 11, and it's cloudy at 14 in Nyeri, highs of 22, and we'll see highs of 25 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 17. It's raining in parts of Mombasa, going to highs of 31 and lows of 24, and we'll see mostly sunny conditions in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Mostly sunny at 22 in Kisumu, and it's sunny at 23 in Kakamega, going to highs of 29. Kampala experiencing rain at 21, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Dar es Salaam, 18 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 28, and it'll go to highs of 32 in a rainy Lagos at 25. 24 will be the high in a rainy Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Continues in most parts of Nairobi this morning, and we're looking at the Thika Superhighway coming into the city. The service lanes, we're told, are working really well for folks this morning, so you want to think about using that. All right, what's this? Traffic that's building up going towards Rilo Dinga Way and then out towards Gong Road. It's going to connect with Community as you get into the city. It looks busy on Langata Road. It's going to connect with Aerodrome as you go out towards Uhuru Highway and then towards the Haile Selassie Junction. So you have to contend with some more traffic on Joga Road this morning. Still looks heavy as you then connect to Lusaka, Likoni, Lunga, and that whole area coming out towards the Likoni interchange, touching on the southern bypass. So some traffic there continues. The Thika Superhighway, we said, use the service lanes, and Kiambu Road also will see the dregs of traffic coming out of traffic hour sooner or later. Still busy coming out of Westlands. We're looking at James Gishoro crossing over towards Wayaki Way, which incidentally is extremely busy at this minute. Not quite sure what's causing that, but hey, Limuru Road also busy as well. Watch out for that as we continue traversing the streets through Thursday. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. The adults in the room.
I've seen some marriages, relationships, cohabitings struggle because there was no independence of the relationship.
It needs a certain level of intelligence. You need to reach a place where you know yourself. And again, you're not feeding off society.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune into Adults in the Room every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since about shipping out.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man.
Emmanuel Talabu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they'd been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or a ship goat?
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
continue our
Nairobi.
conversation at 23 minutes to 9 o'clock, looking at the tick-tock of the clock and not forgetting about your Samsung Watch 5 Pro and the many things that it can do for you. Samsung, your technology partner, says that even as you tell time, you can tell about life. How about that? Continuing on this World AIDS Day, and we're talking this morning with Dr. Jared Mecha about some of the gains that we've made as the world and also as the country when it comes to HIV and the research, HIV and the treatment, the learning, the teaching.
Then there's the issue of the way forward. But the way forward can only be gleaned and be understood when you look at what is actually being done. Now, Daktari, the work that you do, what exactly is it? And how exactly does the funding that you get or hope to get or propose to get or might get play a role in ensuring that the goals you set out to achieve are actually achieved? Start off with, what do you do? What research are you involved in? What work are you involved in?
Yeah, so for the last 15 years, I've been part of leading, really designing and implementing programs that address making resources available for comprehensive HIV prevention, care and treatment. And this is funding that comes from donors. For my case, through the University of Nairobi, to implement projects. And what we have done is implemented projects in parts of Nairobi County, parts of central Kenya, about 5 counties of central Kenya, or the Mount Kenya region, and also parts of Rift Valley, really covering a period of what I've mentioned, about 15 years, supporting close to 150,000 compatriots living with HIV, and also another huge number of persons at risk, making available resources for HIV prevention. So whether you are talking about people knowing their status, so making it possible for people to be tested so that they know their status, making it possible for those who are at high risk for HIV infection to access prevention interventions, including, condoms, counseling, what we call pre-exposure prophylaxis, post-exposure prophylaxis, prevention of mother-to-child transmission, and things like that. And also just building systems that support this work, whether it is it is at the community level or at facility level. So all the way from providing rooms, decent rooms for consultation, where patients can be seen in confidence, can provide their health information in confidence, all the way to using these resources to supplement human resources for health, employing doctors, clinical officers, nurses, counselors, records people, and across the board, really making available those resources for that work to be done. So that's the work we've been doing.
When you say making resources available, what are these resources that you make available?
So you are actually talking about money at the end of the day. So in this country, which is really another area of reflection on this World AIDS Day for our country, is that between 75 and 80% of the funds, of the resources that support HIV prevention, care and treatment are external. They come from donors. Largely the US, what you may call bilateral, from bilateral resources, the largest contribution being from the United States government, but also multilateral donors, and the largest contributor being from Global Fund.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a great area of concern. In your house, if all the resources that you used to manage your essentials, including food and rent and other things, were from borrowed resources or from donations, you'll be very concerned. If 80% of your household was run, if that is even possible, by donations, it will be of a great concern.
Sure.
So I think that's one of the areas in terms of sustainability of the gains and ensuring that things don't fall through the cracks. That's one of the area where those that are in positions of responsibility to address financing, healthcare financing, need to seriously think about.
And that has been an issue for the longest time when we're talking about healthcare financing, whether we're talking about national budgets that ought to go towards health, whether we're talking about research budgets, from the Abuja declarations to over and over and over again who has said what. But that the very healthcare of a nation can then not be dependent on what foreign donors will give, because at that at some point, even those taps will start to run dry, as we have seen. CT mentions PEPFAR. We're looking at huge, dependence on research for intervention in the fight against HIV that has come from them. And we've seen a reduction of that over years, with warning from them that this would actually come to pass. It would reduce. Now, you talk about the vanguards of responsibility in the country being government largely. What needs to happen for this work to continue, for the fight to remain a fight, for the gains not to be clawed back on? What needs to happen?
So obviously the conversation, as you said, is been going on for very long, and what needs to happen is really well known. It's one of those, I think you call it a broken record. Everybody knows about it. What we do, from where I stand, and I think I stand in sort of very close to the middle of where the trouble is. What we do not see is commitment. Commitment, as you said, that it's not safe, that a significant proportion of our healthcare intervention is funded through donor resources. It's not safe. It's not safe for anybody, because the day these resources are not available, I can tell you there will be a disaster if people have not put action to the words. So the first thing is that what needs to be done is very well known, and what, from where I stand, is lacking is commitment. Let's start with, for example, a large proportion of these funds go into human resources for health, employing the frontline healthcare workers that support these services. Can we start by the national government and the county governments beginning to take up the payroll tab for these programs? I think that's one great place to start. There is some progress that has been made in the area of commodities. So the ARVs, the condoms, the testing kits, and all those kinds of things. But still, the proportion by donor is quite significant. So can we also move into really also once and for all setting our supply chain right?
Can the government afford it?
We really cannot say we cannot afford it when it is about the health of the population, because that is the primary responsibility. It is there in the constitution. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right for Kenyans. And I think, as you say, the vanguards really have to say, these, of all things, very high up there with security and other things, we have to think about healthcare and the health of the population. We cannot say we cannot have. Because if you look at the economic losses that happened at the height of the HIV epidemic, where you will recall, we lost whole, professions. We had a problem, teachers. There are places where we had shortages of teachers because of this problem. As you said, there are whole communities that were devastated, and we lost massive amount of productivity. So there is an economic cost to ignoring a festering health issue. We all know the challenge we had with COVID. Literally just about nobody was making money because of the pandemic. So when we ignore preparedness for population health issues, we pay back by the shilling, and the economic losses can be massive. So it's really everybody's responsibility now to put action to what is very, very well known that needs to be done about financing for the HIV epidemic and actually all other what you may call in communicable diseases of epidemic potential.
Dr. It's something I have to ask. I mean, you've been a doctor for a good while, and any doctor in this country has worked for the government at some point.
Correct.
And you've probably had a leadership position within government at some point. Would you say that have we ever had an honest conversation about the costing of our healthcare? Because figures are always thrown up. We need this. And while we are at it, somebody will throw in the Abuja Declaration and the 15%. And yet, from what one observes, the preventative aspect of healthcare is completely ignored, or it's given very little attention. And yet, from a layman's perspective like myself, there's a thinking that is what would help control, if not bring down completely, this high cost of healthcare that we keep talking about. Because if you prevent the disease, there'll be no disease to treat. There'll be no problem with the disease. Where do you think we are at the level of the honesty of conversation? Because we are at the level of the honesty is that we are dependent on donor funding. Okay? And that argument seems to also indicate that we don't have sufficient resources. And I'm saying we might have sufficient resources. It's just that we don't have that conversation. Hence, do we cost our healthcare appropriately? Do we actually look at it and say, this is the best approach to do? This is how we ought to go about it, and this is what would achieve the results we want with our own resources?
So the first thing I would say is the conversation has been held. As I said, it's a broken record. We have had the conversation about healthcare financing in this country for a very, very long time. And as you said, yes, I worked for government. I have taken leadership positions in that. And I can tell you, we have experts that have looked at this. And they know exactly what it will be demeaning to some of the people who have spent their life in this area to say that conversation has been held. That conversation has been had. Let's start there. What I think the challenge is two things. One is prioritization. Is really prioritization. We haven't gotten to a place where resources are allocated to areas of priority. And that, I think, that is where I can say the honesty aspects come in, where we all know where the problem is, but we have problems of prioritization and putting resources in areas of priority. The second thing is really courage. Is taking difficult decisions.
Right.
Because when it comes to issues of money, which I'm not a great expert of, I know that you need to make very serious decisions which require courage. And this is a space, healthcare financing is one space where there are lots of what you may call interests. I don't want to use more difficult words than that. Lots of interests. And when you have a situation that's got lots of interests, what you need is courage. To say, with regard to, as far as healthcare financing is concerned, I think this is the direction we should take. And we have excellent examples, both from studies, from research, but also from what you may call comparative health systems. We know places in this world where financing for what you may call the majority of the population happens reasonably well, and people enjoy really reasonable health outcomes with what you may call efficient allocation of resources. So if we just look to those examples, it should be possible for us to make those decisions. And then finally, it's a whole issue of really looking at healthcare comprehensively. As you said, the big buildings tend to be attractive, and everybody wants to build these, build the other, and so on. And at the expense of what you said, primary primary preventative healthcare and promotive. So, for example, we are moving into a situation where we're going to be having a huge problem of non-communicable diseases. We know that most of the non-communicable diseases are preventable at primary level. So you're talking about salt, you're talking about sugar, you're talking about screening for blood pressure, you're talking about screening for cancers that can be screened for. And those are things that can be done at primary level. If you ignore blood pressure, you lose your kidney, you go into dialysis, an extremely expensive medical intervention, because a proper identification of blood pressure at primary level, proper management at primary level was ignored.
Right.
So that's really the challenge, that we need to look at healthcare and the way in which we allocate resources to healthcare in a comprehensive manner, and we have excellent evidence of what is what gives you the best results for the shilling.
Dr. MTTC, mother-to-child transmission. We're looking at the HIV reports, which will come out today at the launch of World AIDS Day. One of the things that they have said is that in the next 8 years, by 2030, we should see an end of infections of newborns by their mothers. What would it take to make this happen? And from the work that you've done, do you see that this could actually be done?
So absolutely. So really, at this time and age, we shouldn't be having any child born HIV positive because their mom has HIV infection. It shouldn't be happening. So if I can give you examples of the programs that I've worked in. So when we started working in some of these programs, we had mother-to-child transmission rates of anything between 10 and 15%. And within 5 years, we reduced that to less than 2%. It can be done. If you look at most programs right now, what we call within program. So within a program, you have what you call a cohort of mothers, and out or the totality of those mothers that are attending antenatal clinic, you test, which is the first thing that every mother really should know their HIV status. And then those who are HIV positive, you put on treatment and so on. So within programs right now, most are reporting mother-to-child transmission rates below 2%, or at least below 5%. But when you look at the national profile, for example, we are talking about 8 to 11, percent. Those are the kind of figures that have been given. So what's the challenge? If you look at outstanding aspects of where we're having children born of with HIV infection, number one is mothers who have been on treatment, who for some reason have discontinued treatment. So we really must have all women, as we say, of reproductive age who are living with HIV receiving effective antiretroviral therapy and staying on effective antiretroviral therapy for their own sake, for their own health, but also for the sake of the babies. The second contribution is really those who are not known to have HIV infection. They are expecting, and then they're identified, and usually they're identified late. So what we are saying is that really we need to have interventions where every woman of reproductive age who has intention of starting a family, really knowing their HIV status. And then finally, the final group are those who are on treatment, so mothers who are on treatment, but their viral load is not suppressed. So the virus is not suppressed in the system.
Right.
We have treatment now that can suppress the virus to undetectable levels, and now we are talking undetectable and transmissible. So if a mother has HIV infection and their viral load is undetectable, they will not give it to their unborn child. Equally in terms of sexual contact with undetectable viral virus, someone will not pass it through sexual contact. So those are some of the things that we need to do, really providing what you may call a comprehensive prevention, care, treatment, interventions for all women of reproductive age, beginning with community. So we have community interventions and we have health systems interventions, which really must be very strong to sustain the gains.
How readily available is this information? I mean, it sounds really wonderful, but how many people know this? How many people understand that this is available, where they can get it?
So we do number one, we do our best within the programs, within the facilities that are supported within whether you're talking about government facilities and private facilities, to ensure that this information is available. But also, I think that is the other issue around a day like this. A day like this is to reinforce the message and to say we cannot let the message drop.
Right.
So, for example, we know there is something called PrEP. So N1, pre-exposure prophylaxis. And this pre-exposure prophylaxis...
Just explain prophylaxis, that though it is understood.
In a short while, in about a short minute,
Yeah, so it's really prevention. It's prevention. If anyone knows that they are at increased risk of HIV infection, they can take these medicines. They are now available in tablet form or even in injection form.
Yes.
And this injection is long term. Somebody can take an injection and they will be protected for a period of. So this information is available, and what we are asking people really and telling everybody, let this information go out. Yes.
Dr. Harry, thank you for joining us this morning on this World AIDS Day. It would be great to see the gains that we continue to make in the fight against HIV. Asante Sana for being in the Situation Room this morning. Dr. Jared O. Mecha is a lecturer and specialist physician at the University of Nairobi of Health and director of the Center of Healthcare Quality and Innovation. It's 9 a.m.
Thank you.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has revealed plans by the government to procure state-of-the-art weaponry and gadgets for police operating in bandit-prone areas in the North Rift region and security agents attached to the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit. Speaking when he addressed specialized teams drawn from the General Service Unit, the Rapid Deployment Unit, Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit and Anti-Stock Theft Unit in Kakuma, Turkana County, Kindiki underscored that the arming of the said security personnel will be prioritized by the government in line with the police equipment modernization program. By equipping the said officers with modern land and air weapons, Kindiki said the state will boost ongoing efforts to curb insecurity across the country while safeguarding the lives of security personnel in line of their duty. 2 more firearms that had been stolen from a police armory in Nairobi County have been recovered by police, bringing the total number of recovered firearms to 3. 1 is still missing. The 2 G3 rifles were recovered Wednesday night by police officers based at Nyamasaria patrol base in Kisumu County. According to reports, the officers were conducting foot patrols in the dead of the night when a numberless suspicious motorbikes suddenly approached them. On sighting the officers, the rider immediately made a U-turn as the officers attempted to unsuccessfully grab the pillion passenger from the bike. Now, former Commissioner of Lands Sami Kipkorir Moita appeared before the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission at Integrity Centre, Nairobi. Moita is accused of abuse of office, conflict of interest and fraudulent acquisition of property arising from transactions he authorized during his tenure of office as a Commissioner of Lands. One of the transactions entails allocation of public land to his brother Hilary Kipkorir Moita. The land, valued at 100 million shillings, is located in Nakuru, where the Kenya National Highways Authority is currently constructing its regional headquarters in Nakuru. To recover and revert the land back to the government, the Commission has since sued Moitas together with the Chief Land Registrar and obtained injunction orders prohibiting any dealings on the land pending the hearing and determination of the matter. Now, the government is set to appeal the High Court ruling that stopped the importation and distribution of genetically modified crops. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimutai says the government is confident that the appeals court will overturn the ruling since the government carried meetings with all stakeholders before the GMO ban was lifted. This is because players in the horticulture sector are worried that international markets will soon impose a GMO certification requirement on Kenyan products due to a lack of proper GMO policy. The appeals comes days after the High Court temporarily suspended importation and distribution of genetically modified organisms. Judge Mugure Thande also temporarily banned importation of GMO products, foods and materials by government or any person, either directly or indirectly. The lawsuit was filed by Kenya Peasants League, a lobby group representing peasant farmers. The group claims that the decision of President William Ruto-led administration to lift the ban and remove regulatory protocols imposed in 2012 is unprocedural and unlawful. And 10 counties have reported cholera-related cases in recent days within Nairobi, Garissa, Machakos, recording highest number of cases. This was disclosed by Acting Health Services Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth during the launch of Kenya's Status Report on Infection Prevention and Control in Healthcare Facilities launched in Machakos County. Amoth revealed that all the 17 sub-counties of Nairobi had reported cases of cholera outbreak, with a total of 1,094 cases reported nationally and 25 fatalities. It said that the national government, in partnership with all the 47 county governments, has however developed infection prevention control measures, including diagnostics, to curb the spread of the disease. Now, the Director of Agriculture and Rural Development of the African Union Commission, Godfrey Bahigwa, has called for action-oriented dialogue and engagement in developing resilient food systems on the African continent. Speaking at the beginning of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Partnership Program, Bahigwa said that resilient food systems will help to eliminate hunger and reduce poverty by raising economic growth. Bahigwa noted that the theme is apt for Africa at this time when climate change and other impacts, including the war in Ukraine, have impacted food production on the continent. And finally, nutrition experts drawn from 11 countries are meeting in Nairobi this week for the Cross-County Learning Forum, an initiative by Nutrition International. The forum will provide key stakeholders, county leadership and the national government with the opportunity to jointly reflect on progress, review performance, challenges and achievements of set targets and draw lessons to inform planning of priorities for the following years. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asata. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
Okay, at a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and we are looking at traffic in different parts of the city on the Thika Superhighway. It still continues, and we've been trying to be good and use the service lanes this morning, have we not? Yes, we have. So you won't get stuck in the traffic that is into the CBDs where most of it is. Rilo Jinga Way is pretty heavy as you're getting towards Ngong Road. That's going to continue for some time. And we're also looking at it heavy coming off of Kiambu Road. James Gishoro is still doing that thing, trying to cross over towards Wayaki Way. And what else do we see here? Lunga, Jogo Road, Likoni onto the southern bypass on Mombasa Road still continues here and there. But we're getting out of traffic hours soon enough, so not to worry, folks. Everything should be all right. It's not been too crazy a Thursday. Are you stuck somewhere? Let us know. Find some good routes to use. Let us know that as well. And we'll share how to do that. Do it on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. It's at 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we are going into the final conversation for the hour. As we do that, and starting off, I know that you're, what's the word I want to use? Swanky, CT.
Swanky is a good word. This is descriptive.
Okay.
It has a nice, not just ring to it, it has a zing to it as well.
Okay. I won't steal your thunder.
No,
I'll let
please.
you, do the thing. Then I want to give people discounts. So you see now, let me allow you.
Let me just talk about the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra.
Yes.
Yes. Michael, see this little gadget I have in my hand? I want you to look at the clarity on that screen. Now, this is one of the wonderful features that this particular tablet has. And I want to read today's proverb, which is from the country of Guinea, from it. Yes. It's actually a joy reading something when it's that clear, as opposed to one of these situations where you are squinting and trying to figure out whether it is an L or an I, whether it's an N or an M. Okay? Our proverbs for this week have been from the country of Guinea. Okay? For news of the heart, ask the face. For news of the heart, ask the
face. For news of the heart, ask the face. Okay. Before we introduce our guest, let me tell you about some of these wonderful discounts that I have on offer for you today. Kiwi says, buy a tin of Kiwi Black, Kiwi specifically black polish today at any of your stores, and you stand a chance to win airtime or data every week. So then you dial *459*5# and enter the code under the lid for an opportunity for you to win school fees. School fees. Now, I have increased the days of January from 71 to 84. The 84 days of January, you will need some school fees. 35,000 shillings is what Kiwi will offer and is offering over the next few weeks. All you need to do is step into a store and buy Kiwi Black Polish and see yourself literally in the future. Our guest for this hour is seated and he's here with us. And we're going to talk about the happenings in Nairobi over the last few weeks. And is it weeks or even days? All right, before we get into that, Michael Mudhami is the chairman, the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association of Kenya, PERAC. He's here with us this morning. And it would appear as though a number of people in this association are not very happy with what has been going on. But let's give it some context before we jump right into the conversation, shall we? There have been rumblings previously about cultural establishments, as CT would refer to them, being in residential areas. And there has been complaint from people in these said residential areas. We also have a brand new governor in place. He's been there for maybe 2 months or so. And there has been talk. Are we going to move bars and cultural establishments from residential areas? What is going to happen? And then voila, the governor now said, we're not banning them. We're not shutting them down. We're saying, bring your noise levels down, close at a certain time, get certain things in order. And then we saw this movement over the weekend. Michael.
Yes.
Go.
We also give some context because when you say bars in residential areas or cultural centers,
establishments. Yes, please.
I like the word cultural centers.
You like centers? You like cultural centers?
Centers is good.
All right.
This movement, obviously, I remember when I was a bit younger, we didn't have what we have now. And I think this started with the alcohol blow, 2017. 2016, when there was the alcohol blow movement in town and bars started moving out of the CBD, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of money put in by some communities to get bars out of town. Buildings were being bought out. and the bars has to live and being paid off. So right now in town, I think we have on the what we'd call downtown, probably about 2 clubs, so-called clubs left. So the whole of town, it would be hard place to get a beer these days, unless you're going into a hotel.
These days being today, December 1st.
Today, yeah,
Okay.
the last year or so, you'd be hard pressed because majority of the establishments closed down. So people, the product was taken to the people, basically. Yeah.
Residential imbibing.
Yes,
Home bars.
although it's very hard to actually say what a residential area is these days.
Okay.
Because if you turn around, the same county that's saying is residential is charging you commercial rates. Because remember, you have changed of your user. You are now a commercial place, first of all. So you're paying commercial rates. It's not that you've taken someone's house and you're selling alcohol out of it without anything.
Allow me to jump in here, Michael. When you talk about now paying commercial rates, is this at the point of licensure? When you go and you apply for a license for this particular establishment, you are told, yes, we will grant you this license. You shall pay these rates. Are the questions about where this establishment is located, do those questions come up?
We have rogue places, which is now, you're getting to the crux of the matter, which maybe I'll bring a bit later, which is corruption. The county, the licensing, the Nairobi County licensing structure has had deep corruption, whereby you had some errant people just getting licenses without the proper procedure being followed. So there are some places, even me, I look and say, "Aye, please, it doesn't make sense." Even me as a human being, I don't think I would like that sort of noise next to me or something next to me.
Okay.
So we have issues, but if we are talking about now and the issue we are facing today, is that the governor actually shut down and said all.
Allow me to read the declaration from the governor. Public notice on noise from bars and restaurants. This was dated the 25th of November, which was last Friday.
Yes.
Due to numerous complaints from the public on noise emanating from bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and liquor selling premises, Nairobi City County Government hereby makes the following communication. Number 1, no nightclub licenses will be issued or renewed for premises operating within residential areas. Those already issued are hereby cancelled, and the establishments may continue operating as bars and restaurants only, but no nightclubs with the boom, 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 is basically what we're saying, right? Henceforth, nightclub licenses will be issued to premises only within the central business district and specified streets in other non-residential areas. Number 2, bars and restaurants in residential areas must operate within the specified time and control noise emanating from their premises. Specifically, playing of music must stop by 10 p.m. And finally, number 3, all liquor selling premises in the county should provide sufficient parking for clientele. Vehicles causing obstruction along roads and footpaths shall be impounded. This takes effect immediately. This is signed by Dr. Jairus Musumba, who is the acting secretary and head of the county public service. Yes?
Yes, the governor put that out apparently on the Friday. There was no actually direct communication to us or anyone in the industry.
But this is direct.
Direct. This. Okay. Let me ask you a question.
What would direct be? I mean,
direct is,
in your
let me give
understanding
you
of
an
it.
example. These people, when they were applying for, we are about 400, 500 people with a nightclub license. And it's called a nightclub license because it goes until 3. It's not necessary. The people who've taken that license are not necessarily having nightclubs. It's just the name of the license. Because you'd have like a late night restaurant who would apply for that license, even without any music, maybe with a bit of background, but just to give them the right to sell alcohol for those few extra hours until 3 a.m. So nightclub license does not mean boom, boom, first of all.
Okay.
Yes. So we have a lot of players who've license has been revoked. It was a blanket statement. First, it was illegal. He does not have the power to do this. There's only one person who can revoke.
Who's that?
That's the Nairobi Liquor Board. It's clearly in the act.
They are the ones who license. So therefore, to revoke license, it must be them.
Yes, and there's a clear procedure of how to revoke a license.
And is the Liquor Board part of the county government system, or are they independent?
They're independent to a way, but the thing is that the chairman is appointed, is at the mercy of the governor. But there are 3-year terms.
Who appoints the chairman?
The governor.
Precisely.
Yes.
And they must report to someone. Who do they report to?
Funny enough, the liquor fund is the only money that doesn't go to treasury.
Why?
It is a separate. From the days from it came down from Nakada, it was separate. It was funny. We used to call it the governor/fund.
Okay, sorry. Hold on. When you say slush or you saying slash?
No, slash.
Okay.
With the U.
Yes.
Okay. With the U. All right.
Not cut.
Got it.
Yes.
For context.
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially, the governor and issues to do with licensure are directly connected. But you are saying because the board is the one who have the mandate for issuing the licenses, that the governor's declaration was illegal. How?
He has we have an act, we have laws we follow.
And what do the laws say?
The law says, first of all, in this case of noise pollution, the liquor board is actually not even the one that's supposed to follow up on it. We have an environmental department, which is the devolution of NEMA.
And it's a devolution of NEMA.
Of what NEMA is, yes.
Is it nestled in the county?
It is nestled in the county as that. So they are the ones who are supposed to, everyone has their job. They're the ones to go to the places and actually say you're doing noise, leave a paper, say this. And they're the ones who have the authority to shut you down on that line.
Okay.
We have a big problem that was caused from the liquor licensing board. And I'll be honest, the people who are there now are new. They had nothing to do with it. Even I've seen they're being called in front of the Public Accounts Committee this week for some 490 million disappearing there.
And
but these people are not there.
You do know that money actually doesn't disappear. People take it.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Yeah. So we have a group of people who've left who put us in a big mess. And now we've all been left to deal with the consequences.
Okay.
But now the governor can't throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Okay.
Because we were even actually in the process. This was a shock to a lot of people. This thing, what happened, was because we'd had 2 previous meetings with the deputy governor.
Okay.
We were in the process of forming a committee. We were resident associations, us as the PERAC, and the county, who was led at that time by the deputy governor. So we had a meeting at Ngong Hills Hotel. We came up with a plan of what we were doing. When we had that first meeting, we had some of the old county officials, which actually, I'll give them credit, they got rid of many of them by the time we got to the second meeting.
Okay.
So by the time we got to the second meeting, they had not reached what they had said they are going to do, which was the formation of the committee, give us the people, do whatever. So by the time we had the second meeting, now is when we were actually going to kick off the process. This committee had, even during that meeting, we had residents association people, even someone from Kara, who actually admitted in that space of the 2 weeks that we had started working and getting our members to toe the line, reduce the vote, do whatever, there was a huge difference in Nairobi. People had reduced their complaining by a lot.
Okay.
So
who were the people who were complaining? Nairobi residents?
We had Nairobi residents complaining, yes,
Okay.
in certain areas. You see, we have, out of those, call it 400 to 500 bars, people with the license to extend, say the Kichwangumus, who, let's give them about 20, 25 in the beginning, and we cut that number down a lot in that 3 weeks.
Okay.
So we were moving forward.
I think one of the things that we need to set here clearly and honestly is whether there is an issue with noise from these establishments in residential areas.
100%.
There is an issue. So this circular that comes then from the office of the governor, when they talk about this problem with noise emanating not just from nightclubs, from bars, from restaurants and nightclubs. So the three categories have been called out here and said that there's a problem with noise. Is that founded, that there actually has been a problem with that in residential areas? Not the ones in the areas where nobody's complaining about. In residential areas where people come home after work, they go to sleep.
There has been an issue.
Okay.
That one is, I think everyone, it would be a lie to say there was no issues with noise. And that's what I was saying. We had started solving the issues.
How?
By actually getting our members to toe in line where we can and whatever. And let's also take it to the fact that we also have laws governing the sound levels. So even we have places where the council officials have gone and checked and told the neighbor, please, this is within levels. So you cannot have.
There is regulation about the level of noise you are allowed to
make,
and NEMA does this.
Yes, it is there. It's a law which actually want a judicial review because this was a law done in 2009.
And what's the problem with the law? If it was done in 2009,
there was no public participation.
Oh, okay.
This was before the new constitution.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I'm seeing a newsroom there. The decibels in that newsroom would be almost, if there were people who are talking.
What are decibels?
It's the element used to measure sound.
Yes.
Like you have degrees for warmth or heat.
Yeah, that much
so you
I
have
know.
Decibels for sound.
Oh, so decibels is the degree for sound.
God, there you can go with that.
Carry on.
Okay.
Yes. So now there's these decibel meters, which I think have been going around social media of the demo guys outside the clubs, which is 30 meters. You stand there 30 meters and check on the noise.
Are they standardized, these gadgets?
If you're taken to go to that one, you'll find out.
Michael.
Yeah. But let's just take the word for it.
Okay, let's assume the equipment exists and it measures, and you accept that the measures that are pronounced by the equipment are taken to be true.
Yes, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Yes. So we've been having variations, but it needs checking because some of those levels are not fair. And I'll be honest.
How?
Because a lot of them are just copy and paste, not necessarily looking into the situation. If we were part of the discussion when making the law, maybe there would have been a bit of a difference.
Was there an initial allowance? Because I think here the bone of contention really is that in as much as there is noise, it's that this noise is in a residential area. Right?
The blanket statement by the governor closes everything. It doesn't matter. That's why it was a knee-jerk reaction. So we have got right now police walking into bars or extended licensed areas in malls and telling people to go home. You know, at the end of the day, it's about what the police understand on the ground.
No, it's more what they want, really not what they understand.
So the gap now for corruption has become huge. These raids are now going daily. Right now, people are afraid to go have a drink in their local pub because they don't know if the cops are going to turn up. It's now become like curfew time. Yes, in fact, I've been trying to make Sakaja's curfew trend for this. So hashtag Sakaja's curfew. Yeah, so the issue we have right now is I'm just calling out on the governor to clarify the statement. Because I think even him, I was told by a small little bird, when the statement I went out, he had not read it. So there is something he wants to clarify, but the situation is that he can't.
Let me ask you, what are the channels of communication that your organization has with the authorities? Because clearly there's need for discussion.
Right now, I'm telling you, that disconnect, whereby we were in a meeting with the DG, Deputy Governor, full meeting with all these lines of, we had someone from Nakada, it's a full meeting in Boma. We have discussed, we have a way forward, we are all now moving. We know we are forming this committee, we are looking together, TORs and everything, budget lines, how we are moving, good. Then out of nowhere, we get a circular from the governor. So it's like there's a disconnect even within the county offices where the governor doesn't know what the DG is doing and vice versa.
It does seem like a bit of a pickle.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the clarity that is being sought from this particular circular is what then deems that, because I think you alluded to that before, what
one.
then deems an area residential or not? Are you looking at that there will be majority of homes where people are actually residing, and then in there you will see a few? I believe that
Nairobi West.
the Kileleshwa MCA spoke to us and said that from one street to another there are 20, I believe the number was 27 bars and other establishments in one area.
I will give Alai, although he talks a lot of nonsense.
Wow.
Sometimes
Okay.
you can pick one thing out of what he says and pick it, and maybe there's truth. There's always smoke.
Just a cautionary note here.
Yes.
When you speak of an individual and mention them by name,
yes.
If you say something that is derogatory,
yes,
I will ask you for the proof and the evidence.
Yes.
Because if I don't, then it's like I agree with you.
Okay.
And I don't.
You don't?
Well, I don't know how it is you've arrived at that particular conclusion.
I think it's just bad social media messages.
So if I can ask that question, what then deems an area to be residential or not? And is it the bylaws that you had mentioned? Is it down somewhere whereby you will say the proportion of residential units, the proportion of residential units to these other establishments must be X is to Y? How do you know that an area is residential and then in that area 1, 2, 3 then must occur? Is it in the bylaws somewhere? Is the formula written down? Does everybody have an understanding of it? I can't just go and erect a place.
Now it takes me back into the county, and the word corruption comes up again, because the planning department is again a mess. So now we've had there's been meetings about the next year's finance bill and all those things, and I think some of that came up. We have places that have been turned into mixed use. In that Kilimani and everything, if you see, there's places that have more or less mixed use, places that are commercial. But next to this commercial center, someone has gotten planning permission to put up flats. Even on those houses which we are talking about, which were quaint when I was growing up, those were quaint roads with house after house, all of them with kayapol fence. No one was disturbing anyone. Right now, it's construction sites in those areas because everyone wants to live in Lavington. Everyone wants to live. And if you just get a small gap, someone paid off someone, they got planning permission. You're now seeing a Chinese building of 14 stories. So, and then these small shopping malls that have come up from everywhere. There's now one next to every road has got a shopping mall. So it complicates matters a lot, because the same county is the one that has licensed that shopping mall. It licensed the bar that is in that shopping mall. If we go back a bit to places like Nairobi West, like Dagoretti Corner, which are actual small shopping centers next to residential areas. But now...
But they've been there for the longest time.
Yes. But now, there are people who live in those areas, in the shopping center.
Some even live
on top of the bars.
Of those establishments.
Yes. But this is something that's grandfathered. Now you are saying someone now there behind, maybe 150 meters away, decided to open a school. According to the Act, that invalidates all those bars. They should be shut tomorrow. So we are working at cross purposes.
What sort of conversation do you think would be able to lay this matter to rest, where an understanding can be arrived at? Because what you say is true. For these establishments to exist, it's with the full knowledge of the county, through whatever means. And the county does garner revenue from these establishments. And you are right. The very fact that they're accepting revenue, it says something.
It does. Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're having a conversation with PERAC chairman this morning and saying, look, there's a directive from the county and saying you're going to close in residential areas at least. But then it's opening up the door for corruption. I don't know that it was not existent before that. But okay, we continue with that conversation after the break. Reminding you that Centum is saying walk into the Two Rivers mixed property and you have a chance to look at what is being developed over and what has been developed over the last few months. And you have an opportunity to own one of these great properties whereby there is a physical there's a substation there, takes care of all your power needs. There is water adequate to all your needs as well. You live next to luxury and work not too far from there as well. 22635. Text that number and they'll call you and find out how you can make a visit and own property on the luxurious side of life with Centum.
Join the flip side with the new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. It's packed with amazing features that will have you doing backflips, like FlexCam, which allows you to do hands-free video calling, group shots, selfies, and much more. It's beautifully designed to fit your lifestyle and fit neatly in your pocket when folded. But it's not just beautiful, it performs powerfully and it's flipping strong from the inside out. You've got every reason to join the flip side with the Galaxy Z Flip 4, available in selected Samsung stores countrywide.
It's a magical Christmas at Westgate Shopping Mall. Spend 1,000 Kenya shillings and above and stand to win an all-inclusive Mediterranean cruise to the most beautiful cities in Europe. Visit Rome, Venice, Barcelona and get to bring someone with you. You also have the chance to win once-in-a-lifetime balloon safari over the Masai Mara and a luxury stay at Marangecha Camp and the opportunity to win 500,000 worth of luxury furniture from Queen Picks. It's magical and it's all yours to experience simply by shopping at Westgate Shopping Mall.
19 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 27 in a sunny now in Nakuru at 20. Looking at cloudy conditions at 17 in Nyeri, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Eldoret at 20. 29 and raining in Mombasa, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 31 in a now sunny Malindi at 29. Kisumu is sunny at 24, and it's also sunny at 25 in Kakamega, 22 and partly cloudy in Kampala, going to highs of 25. And we'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam, where it's raining at 27, 21 and sunny in Johannesburg, and partly sunny conditions at 25 in Lagos. It's 25 and rainy in Kinshasa. It's 1 degree and sunny out in Beijing. That'll be the high, going down to lows of -12, and it's 4 degrees in Paris and cloudy conditions. 6 and clear in London, highs of 8 and lows of 3, and it's 5 degrees and mostly clear in New York. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 6 and lows of 1.
Spice up your life.
Okay, coming out of traffic hour now, and looks much better coming off of Thika Superhighway. Also off of Mombasa Road, shouldn't have too much of an issue there heading on out. Railo Dingaway, that traffic that started early is connecting with Gong Road, but it shouldn't be much stickier from here on out. We're still looking at heavy traffic just along that Pangani underpass coming off of Thika Superhighway. And in Westlands, we're dealing with the tail end of traffic hour. Through the morning, shouldn't be too bad. Talk to us still, however, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
So at 24 minutes to 10 o'clock, we're asking, so the closure of nightclubs, bars, restaurants in residential areas in Nairobi, what impact does it really have? We've seen numbers. We are with the chairperson of PERAC this morning, and Michael, the question is, I mean, we can look at the nitty-gritty. We can talk about corruption at the county. We can talk about, maybe there's a mess here in terms of boards, in terms of maybe the county boss was look, we can do that until the cows come home. We've seen some numbers. 23,000 people would have lost their jobs. Billions of shillings then having gone up in smoke because of this closure. What does it look like? What's the outlook?
Actually, I'd put out an impact statement earlier on in the week about what it's actually looking like. And even I was sitting here outside here, waiting to get into the studio. I was sent a message by one of these reps who sell the alcohol to the bars, and he was saying, my biggest buyer has gone from buying 150 crates and now they're buying 10. So we have a huge problem. Fear from harassment. People have no money to pay bribes right now, especially since they have increased.
There was a time people had money to pay bribes.
There was always something extra to put aside for the security services. Security, even someone to help you on your way home. So okay. I think it's ingrained in this country, and at least unless we have lobotomies, I don't think it's changing anytime soon.
Okay.
So, in fact, we're asking if the governor is serious about this cutting off these licenses and revoking these bars. Aturudishie your pesa. That 130,000 shillings that every one of those establishments paid for that license.
Is that the only license you pay for?
I have about 31 licenses.
Okay, yes. I'd like you to mention them.
For one establishment?
What's the 130,000 for?
That is for now that particular, you can sell
category
until 3 a.m.
Okay.
You'd find...
is there one way you can sell 24 hours?
No. What happens is people join up licenses. You find an establishment with the 2 or 3 licenses.
Okay.
There was a big change. When we moved from Nakada, we used to pay 1 license.
For everything?
Not necessarily for where you are, sort of thing.
What do you pay for? Let's start. You pay 130,000 shillings for 3 o'clock.
For 3, that's for the 3 a.m. license.
The 3 a.m. license.
Which starts at, is it 9 or 10? And goes until...
And what are you allowed to do in that space of time?
This is only the license for alcohol, selling alcohol. Nothing.
You can sell alcohol up to 3 a.m.
Yes.
And you can start selling alcohol at what?
For the actual nightclub, it is from 7, I think.
7 in the evening.
7 or 9. I'll double check.
Okay.
But you see, what happened, because that was being used by those nightclubs in town, the so-called, because that nightclub wasn't open during the day.
You think?
Most of the time they weren't.
Okay.
So now there's a license. You'll find now the bar that's coming to the residential areas or